everyone! Tooney Khan here! Thanks for coming to visit me in my hospital room! As all of you know, I have been critically injured after a heinous attack facilitated by my Young Bucks and my Jungle Boy. They say that my neck might never be the same again, and I'm lucky to be alive. But despite the overwhelming catastrophic pain that I'm feeling, I've risked my own life for an important reason tonight. I'm here to implore you, to beg you, don't watch this show. Don't listen to this show. This show is the worst of the worst, filled with bad faith takes. It's just an excuse for a bunch of incels led by a literal monster to bash my AEW. I mean, the guy plays with puppets on the internet. Have you ever seen anything more pathetic in all your life? Ugh. I also have it on good authority that Kevin Apollo is a bot created by the WWE with the sole intention of bashing my AEW and making all of you feel bad about the size of your arms and tank tops. And tonight, they've got stand-up comedian and YouTube superstar Alfred Konuwa of Pro Wrestling Bits coming on. You might not know this, but this is the guy who ran this segment about the objective greatest wrestler in the history of the world, my Will Ospreay.
Ladies and gentlemen, Will Ospreay!
Woo! Thank you, Tony! Take the piss off it, bruv! And turn the shit in the calibrator! Brian Danielson, the wanker, bruv! And get it, Tiger Driver 91 with the lions and bears and elephants! Freddie Mercury, bruv! And get it, shit in the bruv! Manchester United, the back, bruv! In it!
It most certainly is. Is it?
Disgusting. And I know that my Will Ospreay laughed about it and even complimented the parody, but I can assure you that there is nothing remotely funny about anyone criticizing anything about anyone in any way associated with my AEW, unless it's Keith Lee. They're all bad faith actors with an agenda, so I am begging you not to watch this show. But also don't watch NXT either. It's getting a little too close for comfort in the ratings. Instead, why not get caught up on episodes of my AEW Dynamite? You'll have a much better time. We're like the Pizza Hut of pro wrestling. And this show is like the Darfur genocide of wrestling content.
Okay, Tooney, that's enough.
Wait, watch Dynamite!
Pack it up. Start the live stream, please.
Please watch Dynamite!
Someone turn his mic off. Oh, here we go. It is time, my friends. It is that special time of year again. It's a special time of the week again for Tooney Talk Wrestling. Welcome, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the little cold open that we did there with Tooney Khan. That is going to be something we're going to be doing every week now. So just so you know, Alfred Konuwa, our special guest tonight, is on his way. He will be here probably sometime around 8:30. If not a little bit earlier than that. So we are on the lookout for him. Joining us later in the show, Phil Mox of Pro Wrestle Times as well. He's probably going to be here in about an hour or so. But you know what? It's a long show. So, strap yourselves in, get those super chats in. We're ready to answer your questions. We're ready to read your comments aloud. And I am ready to introduce my panel here today. Of course, here since episode 1. We can't, if you know how to get rid of him, folks, let me know. AEW Disciplinary Committee. How are you, my friend? Are you there? Uh-oh.
Is it me?
Yes, I said disciplinary committee.
Yes. Sorry, like I said, I'm having headset issues. I did earlier, and I put a new pair on, and
it's okay.
I had the microphone in plugged in instead of the other one, so it's coming out of my computer. I didn't notice it. Hey, this is disciplinary committee. How is everybody?
Well, you know what? I'm sure everybody's doing great now that it's time for Tooney Talk Wrestling. And of course, folks, joining us as a friend over at Eastside Reviews just said, showing off the 33.5-inch pythons, brother. It is the one, the only Kevin Apollo. How are you, my good friend?
What's going on, gents? It's got another week of fun and excitement to discuss. Let's do it.
It's just been such a weird week, hasn't it? Like a weird 2-week period. Like we did the episode last week, and then I remember a friend of mine reached out to me in the week, and he's like, "Man, what are you gonna do pretty soon? Like Tony Khan has been pretty quiet lately. He's not really doing much. There's not a lot of backstage stuff going on. Like you might start running out of material soon." And then
Every time.
My response to him was, I'm pretty sure the direct response was, just give it a few days. Because, at the end of the day, Tony Khan is responsible for many careers in the wrestling business, one of which being my fledgling career as a content creator. So I am thankful for Tony Khan. All right. So we got some super chats that have come in already. All right. So let's take a look here at what you guys have to say, what you guys wanted to talk about. One moment here. George Captain, thank you for the super chat, says, trust me when I tell you, all within the NFL know that Tony Khan is a complete joke. Now compare that to what WWE did last night. They had the Chiefs players on Raw, and NFL media praised the segment. That is true. And we will get to that. We will talk about the draft. And John JID 999. Hope y'all are doing well tonight. With Ilya being on Raw, who do y'all predict he feuds with first? Or just what his first few months there will be like? Disciplinary committee, this question seems to be in your wheelhouse.
Yeah. Okay. I think Dragunov is a fantastic addition to Raw. I think it's natural. You can't avoid the Gunther thing, right?
No.
You can't avoid it.
No, not at all.
If you avoid it, people are just going to want it and want it and want it. So I think what you do is I think you have him beat Kaiser to get in the King of the Ring. Do something with him and Gunther in the King of the Ring, but don't give it all away. Have Kaiser mess it up or something. Just tease it in the tournament itself, and then hold off, because I think Gunther versus Dragunov at Clash of the Castle could be a really big deal over there.
Oh, that's a good call. I could see that. And now that Gunther doesn't have the IC anymore, you could actually give Dragunov that win.
Right. Yeah.
Because I don't think that win hurts Gunther. I don't think the loss hurts him, but I think that it makes an entire career with Dragunov.
Right. Yeah. And Gunther's in that situation right now where he can lose without it hurting him and still move on to bigger things. And I'm sure by fall, Gunther's going to be bigger, but I see a lot of people that are throw him in the title picture already. And I think it's too early for that. I'd give him King of the Ring. I think that'd be a good little thing for him right there. But yeah, you can't ignore Gunther and Dragunov. And I wouldn't put him in Imperium because
no, me neither.
Dragunov is a face. You see him when he works as a face. It's hard to not like him. He's a smaller guy. It's hard not to give him that kind of underdog feel. But he really could have a Daniel Bryan thing going on for him in the next year or so if they book him right. And I think a win against Gunther is going in that direction. And then you always have, that's going to be Dragunov and Gunther are going to be the Brett Shawn thing for years to come, and you can always come back to it and it'll always be great. So
Apollo, what do you think? Who would you as a wrestling booker put him up against first?
Big
program.
I like Ilya. He is a wrestler's wrestler, I can see Hunter kind of molding him into his version of Ospreay, and the great thing, you can throw him with anybody. Right now, if you don't want to get to the Gunther thing, obviously you can have him butt heads with Kaiser. You can throw him up against Chad Gable. There's a lot of different things you can do.
Ooh, Gable.
King Gunther is coming like a freight train.
Oh yeah.
I think we'll finally have the thing that King Regal was supposed to be.
Man, what could have been?
Than what we were going to get with King Regal. I think King Gunther will finally get us back there. But I think if they can hold off until Clash at the Castle, I would actually like to see him butt heads with Gable for a little bit. Maybe even do a
storyline where we're going to try to recruit him to Imperium, and and it's a flat out no, and then he kind of gets punished for it, and then now we get one of what will be many clashes with Gunther on a big stage.
That's going to be that. Go ahead.
I was just gonna, I have a question to ask, but it might change topics. So why don't you go ahead and finish what you were saying?
All right. Well, yeah. So I was just moving on with super chats. Shaggy Filth, thank you so much. Says waiting for the parody. TK singing my neck, my back. I hope you guys enjoyed that the Tooney Con cold open. I want to do one every week to start off the show. It's like a little 5-minute segment where people file in. Tooney, it was Tooney this week. Next week maybe it'll be Tooney again. Might be Trip. Might be Meltzer. It all depends on who does what which week. And then JPS, thank you for $2. Says, can we pretend last week never happened? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, because this is a big week for us, folks. He said, please don't put the Mad Dragon in Imperium. Desire Death said that. $2. Thank you so much. And I don't think they will. I don't think they're putting him in Imperium. He
is so babyface. It's painful almost. So
right.
It's awesome. There's a lot you can do with him. We don't have enough time in the show to really discuss it.
Right. OC Steve says, thoughts on Cody's interview with Rosenberg. I'm not familiar with that interview.
Okay. Cody said something about how he always wishes AEW the best and he wants to see them succeed. And then he kind of took a shot of saying, I wish they'd keep my name out of their mouth. Like,
yeah,
and then a bunch of people were saying, like, well, they didn't even say Cody, but he was talking about Storm. I saw an interesting thing because I guess he mentioned Brandy in it. And I saw an interesting thing where somebody thought that maybe he thought that Tony was referring to Brandy coming out, but but she didn't come out. Did she come out? Did she come out at WrestleMania?
She did.
She did. So yeah, I saw somebody saying that maybe he thought they were referring to Brandy coming out. I don't really know what people got all upset about it for.
Well, it's because of the line about Triple H coming out.
Right. That's why
Triple H out.
Right. And I totally get where Cody's coming from. And he didn't say anything bad about AEW. He said he wished them the best. He just wished they'd stop talking about him. I don't see any problem with that at all.
Yeah, because they're all looking for a reason to be mad at Cody about AEW. And let me just remind you, no one wants to believe that Cody actually did that as a shoot to bring Triple H and Bruce Pritchard out. Everyone thinks that no, you were told to do that. This was what was supposed to happen. If I am supposed to believe and get community noted that the thank you Tony Khan banner that appeared on the fucking Tron on Dynamite for Dynamite 200 was done by the production team, you all, because Tony Khan said so, you all can believe that Triple H was shoot called out there because Triple H says so. Otherwise, I'm going back to my original narrative.
Do you think there's anyone in that company besides Bruce Pritchard and Cody Rhodes that wanted Bruce Pritchard out there at WrestleMania that night? Okay,
no,
there's your answer.
I don't even Conrad Thompson. Chat me up. What was it like out there that night, Bruce? You're a liar. That's exactly how the cover. Well, Conrad, it was really nice. I enjoyed it. I had a good time out there. You lie.
What a dumb take.
What a stupid take. Now, here's some boner pills. Oh man, there was nothing worse than just when they were doing like Cornette and Conrad were both doing Manscaper. Commercials, and it was just I was like, I don't want to hear you talk about this. Well, he's like,
balls.
JR, how's your dick hair? And I was like, no, I don't want to think about JR's dick hair and now it's all I can think about. And now I'm thinking about it again. Damn it.
Is the thing that pisses me off so much about Conrad that he tries, maybe if he didn't use all the inside wrestling terminology, and I don't mean the stuff that, all wrestling fans use, I mean the stuff that the wrestlers use. Yeah. If he didn't try that so much and call your dick, your gimmick and that kind of stuff, maybe it wouldn't.
I get it because he's a friend of the Rhodes family. He's married into the Flair family. He's around it all the time. So I understand picking up the lingo. I'm sure that Cody's sister uses a lot of insider terminology. So
yeah,
that's a Raka says towards mom's rent. Oh, good. She'll be so thrilled. Thank you. $10. Oh man, I gotta say I was starting to sweat there for a minute. East Side Reviews checking in. We always love having East Side Reviews in here. What would you all do with Gunther at the Bash in Berlin? I think you guys answered that one by saying you'd put him against.
Wait, no. We said Clash of the Castle, but Bash of Berlin would probably be better. Actually, I mean, it's further away, but I think it'd probably be better for that match.
Is that post King of the Ring?
Yeah.
I think that's the Tim and Cody then.
Oh, you think so?
Maybe.
Oh man, I don't see. I thought they would. No, because Cody, they're on different shows.
Yeah, it would be Priest. It would be Priest. I would honestly, Bash in Berlin. I always had that slated for Gunther's first title shot. And if I think in my head, if Rollins didn't go away and he held on to the title, I would have put the belt on Gunther. There, just because it would have been more than time for a new champion. And if you were going to do it, you might as well just done it there because there would be no place hotter to put a belt on him. Now it can just be a banger title match where you see these two kick the crap out of each other, and everybody and their mother winds up talking about it for the next 2 weeks.
Could you imagine if Drew won the title at Clash of the Castle and we got Drew Gunther at Bash of Berlin?
Oh boy, I could see it. I could see that. But then who's the baby face? Because you got to keep Drew heel.
You think
Gunther wins the title as a baby face?
I was going to talk about earlier. Have you seen Gunther's interviews?
No, I haven't seen a lot of his interviews lately. Okay, yeah, I hear you now.
Okay, yeah, he's facing a lot. He's being a face. He was talking about how he thinks. He said he was talking about how he thinks the match at WrestleMania was great, and he respects Sammy, and he thinks that he deserves the championship. He put over he put over Dragunov, saying like, well, I think he's a great wrestler. I think we're better opponents than we are as allies. And I think we're always going to be that way. He's doing that. You take him over to Bash at Berlin. You can, even if you're not going to keep him as a face, you can push him as a face going into the event and just have him play one there against Drew,
But I also don't think that's where you put it on him because Drew's got to hold on to that for Punk.
No.
Not now. Not now. That was in a scenario if, let's say CM Punk never came back. You can kind of tell where they were going with it. But yeah, Gunther's promos, he's kind of hit a spot now where everybody loves to hate him. And his promos are, he's talking to you as a fighter and not so much as a heel or a face. So but listen, he's still very much so heel because he signed off on the hit that we got last week, Kai's doing all the dirty work. Oh yeah, it's an interesting space where Gunther's allowed to talk about his respect for his opponents and his love of the matches. So you can leave him in that nice little tweener spot until it's time to get some heat, to generate some heat for a babyface.
Yeah, okay. He's gonna have a good run against Punk. They're gonna have some matches they're gonna draw a lot of money.
You just said it like Cornette. He's gonna have a nice run against Punk. Every time he says the name Punk.
It's probably why I said it because I listen to so much Cornette. But they're gonna have a good run. He's got Dragunov. The sky's the limit with Gunther right now, and eventually, like you said, throw him on a different show. He can go against Cody when Seth comes back. He has that run. It's never ending right now with Gunther. So
right.
I'm surprised with everything that's going on, all the injuries, that they didn't rush him. Like, you see, he would be totally bought right now as a main eventer on Raw. 100%.
Yeah. 100%. Oh, no, totally. Especially on Raw. Joseph J. Alexander, $2. Thank you. Says Conrad thinks he's a worker by injection. Oh boy.
Wait a second.
I'm trying to imagine who's injecting him here.
I was gonna, because by family injection it would be. I'm really confused right now.
Yeah. Okay, so Alejandro Melendez, thank you, $5, clearing up this Brandy thing. Says Brandy posted a tweet that hinted at AEW not turning out to be what she and Cody signed up for. That might be the issue. Yeah, I could see them getting bent out of shape about that. But it's not what they signed up for. Cody clearly.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
That was after they opened fire on them, though. because they've been throwing shots at Cody and Brandy for the last couple of weeks. The most egregious was just that stupid press scrum. We're like, why is this even happening right now? But because even in the week before the scrum, I think Cody, I don't remember who Cody did the interview with, but he talked about how he didn't understand why there was so much vitriol towards Brandy, considering that she got most of them their jobs.
Yeah. So I heard him say that he was like, people are like really mean to her, considering that most of them wouldn't be there if she wasn't like, no, that guy.
Yeah, I guess it's not hard to figure out where the animus is coming from. Listen, if I want to stay on TV, not only do I have to go on my Twitter machine and go, thank you, Tony, I need to hurl out whatever the stupid insults of the week are that Tony wants me to say, so that I can suffer the slings and arrows and he doesn't get called out for yet another, delusional breakdown on Twitter. So it's
now,
we all know it.
Do we think that Bald FTR is parroting Tony words here, or is he just like a twat of his own making? Like, yeah, like is he just like going out there on his own and just being like popping off every 2 seconds? Because I have never seen I should love FTR. They are everything that I like in a professional wrestler. But that guy and his social media behavior just make me hate him.
I think he figured out the way to stay on TV. And I don't think he's parroting Tony, but I think he is saying exactly what he thinks. Because I'm starting to think about it. Is there anyone who has been consistently pushed and used on TV and not relegated to sitting and catering or being on ROH that hasn't done this with WWE, or hasn't either pushed how great AEW is constantly or pushed how bad WWE is constantly? Can you give me one name that hasn't done that?
Probably not. Yeah. Honestly, I think it's FTR could have been labeled the Punk guys. They were Punk's best friends. They were very clearly like allied with Punk. And I think now what we're getting is he's overdoing it. Like he's overreaching. He's trying to like really justify to Tony that no, I'm on your side because I signed with you for like 8 years when I thought Vince was coming back. Good Lord. What a mistake that was. Just hold on, guy. Like, man, Plenty of Pixel Art, $10. Thank you. Says, I don't want to think about Conrad injecting himself into anything, let alone, okay, I'm not going to go there. Shaggy Phil 73, thank you, $5, says, glad to see disciplinary committee using the same audio equipment from last week's Dynamite, which is that's a fantastic segue into what I wanted to talk about first this week, which was this week's Dynamite. Now, we're not going to get to I don't want to get to like the big thing that happened at the end until Alfred's here, because I know he really wants to talk about that. But we do need to talk about the fact that it sounded like they were broadcasting it from Mars.
Oh my God. It's like they were trapped in a jar.
The technical... Like, here's the thing. AEW cannot catch a break, right? They had a pay-per-view that, look, no matter what you guys might have thought of it, a lot of the fans were very high on it. There was a lot of praise. They were super, super into Swerve as champion. Like, there was so much good press coming at them from that move. You had Swerve, you had Athena, like there was so much good, the Danielson Osprey match, everything was going their way. And then they launched Dynamite and it sounds like it was the audio equivalent of that episode of the visuals in that episode of Game of Thrones where the White Walkers finally arrived at Winterfell. Like that, isn't that not like a great analogy for it though? Because you couldn't hear anything, and then all of a sudden they cut to commercial while Tony Schiavone is mid-sentence. They try to do a picture-in-picture. The picture-in-picture is blank. I mean, what the heck, guys? I know you're coming from Daly's Place. It probably doesn't have a great setup. I don't know how much equipment you brought in there, but my God, man, this was bad. Not good at all. And Tony blamed TBS for the audio issues, but I don't know. Kev, what do you think?
I do empathize with Tony a little bit because when I do my shows, help is very hard to get. So I do the music, I do everything. And when one thing goes bad, everything goes bad. It's not just one problem. You have problems everywhere. It just must be a universal wrestling curse where it's just you get stuck in a veritable cornucopia of shitstorms. It never stops. It just never stops. That said, dude, you're rolling with hundreds of millions of dollars worth of equipment and experts. How in the blue hell does this happen? And then how do you guys not get it fixed at all? I
mean, like you're running with some HD cameras and like a laptop probably hooked up to some speakers. He's got hundreds of millions of dollars of state-of-the-art television equipment. There's no excuse for it to go live that did they not do any tests? Did they I don't know.
You guys were there all day. No one did any audio tests. It's not like you could blame the weather. It just was it was just a bad look.
And it keeps happening. It's not just the audio stuff either, because remember a while ago they kept cutting to the no screens in production for some reason. So that happened for a few weeks in a row. And then we started getting the they aired us promos where they aired them after they cut, like they'd say cut, and then you see the guys doing stuff afterwards. And then just a couple of weeks ago, the weird Uncle Howdy thing came up that everybody's like, oh, they're ripping off Uncle Howdy. But it was, I don't know what on earth that was supposed to be.
Just
it's like you're supposed, how can you not hire people that can take care of this when you have that? It's just because he doesn't know what he's doing. And
Brian Last and Cornette said, we're talking about this, and they said what's the excuse? Like, oh no, it's Crazy Jerry on the board tonight. Quick, and Cornette was like, quick, someone give him a promotion and get him out of here, because that's what happens, folks.
Well, remember,
you don't get fired for gross incompetence; you get a promotion.
Yeah, there was. I remember the old joke. Whenever for years, WWE would have like 2 production flubs a year. And whenever it happened, everyone said someone's getting fired. And know someone's getting fired. You knew Vince was going back there and firing him personally and doing, you knew he was. And that's why it didn't. That's why it doesn't happen. Now, it seems to actually happen more now in WWE a little bit.
People got fired because writers would get fired because people at the Hall of Fame went over their time or mentioned Vince in his speech. Like he fired a guy once for like reaching into a bowl of peanuts. Like people got fired for everything.
Sneezing. You heard those stories before.
Oh yes. Oh, and he sneezed and he was like pissed about it. Speaking of Vince, Project Libertad, $10. Thank you so much. Sometimes I think AEW and their fans miss Vince as head of WWE because he was the perfect boogeyman for AEW to crap on in this show. Ever since he left, the quality of AEW has gone down. Has the quality of AEW gone down, do you think, or has the quality of WWE gone up, or is it a winning combination of the two?
Yeah, it's both. It's both. Listen, Vince was the boogeyman. Vince has been everybody's boogeyman since the 80s, right? He's the perfect foil. It's why Vince McMahon, after he screwed Brett and sat down delusionally to cut the babyface promo about how he was right and Brett was wrong, and then thought the genius line of Brett screwed Brett was going to endear everybody to him. It turned Vince McMahon into the single most effective heel the WWE had for 15 years. Vince is hateable. He's just hateable. His being the boogeyman and being the monopolizer of the industry, cool. You have your foil, you run with it, and then the Meltzerites will just repeat whatever Dave puts down. With that said, we're out of the honeymoon phase now. You gave AEW a lot of leeway, that TNA never got, mind you.
Never.
Correct.
But they also make mistakes that TNA never made. You gave them a lot of leeway because they were a brand new company. When you are this far in, you should know what works, what doesn't work, what you need to improve upon. You just have an idea of where your skills are and how you need to grow. So it's inexcusable that we keep having these problems. Listen, Cody leaving was your first sign that AEW was not doing well. It's regardless of whatever Cody's reasons were. Cody, even though the fans weirdly rejected him, Cody was the guy, right? Cody was the guy. This was his baby, and Tony gave him the dough to do it, and he ran out of there because it wasn't working. That was your first hint that things weren't going well. Punk comes in. A couple of WWE guys come in to help Punk, to make sure that Punk's intro on Rampage was produced right. A couple of those guys worked, worked for free to teach people what to do. And again, here we are now, years later. This shit still happens, and it is a sign of poor leadership. The effort, you put a lot of effort in, but without guidance, without quality feedback, and without consequences, it's still going to stay a shit show. And it's the proof is in the pudding. We spent an entire coming out of a hot pay-per-view. No one could hear what anyone was saying.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And for, like we were saying before, like Cody saying that, like, okay, it wasn't what he expected it to be. Cody wanted, his father's pro wrestling. He wanted old school pro wrestling. He wanted a return to that. And when Tony says, I'm bringing back pro wrestling, to me, like to me and a lot of other people, that's what he was talking about, the Cody vision. But it was very clear that Cody, the Bucks, and Kenny all had different opinions on, or Cody and the Bucks / Kenny had different opinions on what wrestling was going to be. And Tony sides more with what the Bucks wanted.
Yeah. If you look at when they first started too, a lot of people don't think about it. I think Cody wanted a more family oriented product. When they first started, Cody was out there. Him and Brandy were pushing like like quiet rooms for autistic kids, and a sensory friendly product, and how it'd be family friendly, and they'd have all this kind of stuff. And none of that ever happened. And then Cody goes to WWE, becomes Mr. Family Man, the kid's hero, that kind of thing. It really makes me think that he wanted that kind of not kid focused, but family friendly product where he could be that superhero that he became in WWE. And they didn't want that at all. They wanted violence. They wanted blood. They wanted cursing. They wanted all that stuff. And Cody's like, well, I can't do what I want to do here, so I have to go somewhere else and do it. And look what it accomplished.
They want. Go ahead.
I was saying, listen, it was bad enough that Cody was walking around with his own production team.
Yeah,
really? It wasn't using AEW folks. He was using DDP's people. I think at first he was using GoPro, who was based out of here in Jersey, and then he started using DDP's people so that he was separate. Anything that happened with Cody was essentially a Codyverse, and they were trapped. They were trapped inside of AEW. So again, it's just that level of dysfunction that early. It speaks to a problem with leadership.
Right. I think we also noticed back then that Cody Unleashed is also not a good thing.
No.
Because a lot of Cody's promos were very cringy. A lot of it was very tone deaf. When he ended racism because he had the world's first mixed race baby. Cody was responsible for a lot of like the cringiest moments in AEW history. And yes, they shoved Brandy out there way too much. I think at one point, like Brandy was a heel and Cody was a babyface, but they were still together. It was just, but then Cody was literally going out there and lighting himself on fire for these people, and they were still booing him. So
Cody got desperate and decided that I'll make them love me. And you're setting yourself on fire, botching your table spots. It's like Cody did everything just short of running down like every heel nation in history books, having someone come beat him up. He needed a German, he needed a Russian, and just to try to get some kind of an old school face pop, and they just weren't giving it to him. And
by the way, welcome to over 200 of you watching live right now. We just had passed that mark. And Alfred Konuwa checking in, Pro Wrestling Bits. Thank you with the $5 super chat. Says great show so far, my boys. I'll be on soon. So he is coming. He's on the way. AEW Neckbeards, our producer checking in. Oh well, I could sacrifice Doritos and Mountain Dew for one day. Thank you, Neckbeard. John D. Lee, thank you for the super chat. Says Cody was the only adult in the room, and that is it. He was the adult in the room. Jake, $5. Thank you so much. Says since AEW is a cult and TK is Dialita, can we refer to his followers as Cononites? Also, just wanted to thank you all for this weekly show. You're very welcome, and thank you for tuning in, and thank you for the super chat. Cononites. It sounds like something that J.J. Abrams would have put into Star Trek Into Darkness. If he had gotten the idea. I know. We'll call them Cononites.
How weird is it that here we are 5 years after AEW started? And I remember when AEW started, the thing that drew me to it, part of it was that you really did expect Tony Khan to not be involved, to just step back and let the wrestling speak for itself. And now the entire show is driven on him.
I know, and we're about to talk about that because our special guest has arrived. Ladies and gentlemen, from Pro Wrestling Bits, please welcome the one and only Mr. Alfred Konuwa to Tooney Talk Wrestling. Hello, my friend.
What's up, guys? How's it going? Great to be here.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be had. I love the energy on this show. Iron Shogun, great to see you. You are no longer the minority for this episode. It's a split. And actually, we do have a Muppet, so I guess you guys, there's two of them. So I guess the Muppet's a minority, really. But this is great.
We prefer fabricated Americans.
You have no idea what I am. I could be anything in the world. So
please, you are nothing but a white man.
Okay. I am
very hairy chest, obviously.
I'm going to take this opportunity to fix my audio issues. So give me a minute. I'll be right
back. Go for it. All right. Okay. Yeah. So Alfred, welcome to the show. It's been a crazy week in wrestling. It has we picked a good week to have you on. Like we set this up weeks ago. Little did we know that Tony Khan was going to just completely melt down. But I wanted you to take a little bit in the beginning of the show here just to talk about your channel a little bit, talk about your stand-up comedy, everything that you got going on for those of our listeners who might not be as familiar with your work.
Absolutely. I love the pun intended. Take a little bit because it is Pro Wrestling Bits. It's a
growing
YouTube channel and a lot of opinions, a lot of video essays, and I go on a lot of rants about WWE, AEW. It's important that you guys know that I'm going to drop a documentary this week, Thursday, May 2nd, The Rock's birthday, who I'm sure we're going to talk about. We are dropping a Cody Rhodes documentary about him finishing the story. Should be a lot of fun. I heard word on the street is that, WWE had that documentary on Cody Rhodes that they were going to drop. It was behind the curtain and they aired the trailer and it never came out. And word on the street is it's because they saw the final cut of our documentary and decided that they're not going to compete with that. So that's what I heard. I'm not saying it's true, but that's just what I heard. But check out that. We're going to have some videos here. I just dropped another video about Shad Khan and what we're going to talk about with Tony in terms of how he's melting down with these Harvey Weinstein jokes. But I really do love the Pro Wrestling Bits community. It's I saw Eastside Reviews, who's in the chat, and he's a big part of that community, and I love seeing him on there, and very highly opinionated. My audience doesn't always agree with me, and that's what I love about him, is that we have a lot of spirited discussions, and it really helps inform what I'm going to do for my next video and whatnot. So follow me at Pro Wrestling Bits. This is one of my favorite platforms on YouTube. I've seen your growth, Marvin, and AEW Netbears, and everybody who's part of this. It's really warmed my heart to see this growth, and I'm very happy to be here. So, hopefully this is the beginning of a great relationship.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been an admirer of your channel for a long time. It was one of the ones that I was like, man, like I want to do what this guy's doing. He's tearing it up out there. He's hysterical. And you recently went super viral when the Will Ospreay, which we showed at the beginning of the show. Yes. Every Will Ospreay promo. How did you like come up with that concept and like put it together? I mean, obviously you came up with it by watching a lot of Will Ospreay promos and realizing that it's just him. Yeah. Go ahead.
Absolutely. No, that's pretty much what it is. And I don't want people to think that I hate Will Ospreay, because you know how the AEW people are. It's just love and hate with them. And anytime they face criticism, it's like you're an enemy and you're an op. And they try to put you in a box that you're a hater or whatnot. But it was really simple. I saw Will Ospreay cut a promo, and it was at a time where he was brand new and he was fresh with AEW. And, Meltzer and all these internet wrestling guys are just singing his praises. Oh, 7-star wrestler. He's the greatest ever. Oh, WWE is so dumb for not signing him. And they're just talking about him like he's the second coming of Christ. And I'm listening to this promo and I cannot understand, like every other word, I can't understand what he's saying. And Taz just offhandedly, you guys talked about the quality controls and production issues with AEW. Something like that I don't think would happen with WWE, maybe with Pat McAfee, but Taz just offhandedly said, Will Ospreay is a great wrestler. Didn't understand a word he said, but he's a great wrestler. He just kind of offhandedly buried bury the guy like after a promo. And I thought, I couldn't understand what he said either. And that's what happened.
I love what I have come to refer to as Wordle Taz, and that is Taz on his phone playing Wordle during the show, and he looks up every like couple of minutes. He looks up, gives a one-liner, and then goes right back into his phone.
In AEW's defense, Taz would have done that on SmackDown.
Oh yeah,
you have to remember, we lived through Taz and Cole no selling the cookie on Jillian's face and laughing hysterically anytime they had to talk about it.
Oh no. Yeah. So Alfred, that comes to that, then you're like, I'm gonna just make the definitive Will Ospreay promo.
Yeah, I just thought it's funny because I couldn't understand what he said. Taz said it, so clearly I'm not the only one. So wouldn't it be funny if there was like a promo with Will Ospreay where he's just saying gibberish and everybody's just like, oh, what a great wrestler. And then obviously afterwards you cut to Meltzer and he's just, this is the greatest promo I put it this way, the greatest promo I've ever heard. Like I'm not saying he's The Rock, but he's better than The Rock. Like, so it all just kind of came together once I thought, this is a funny idea that like nobody can criticize Ospreay even when he does these promos that are incoherent.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But you know who? Now I saw when it went live. I thought it was hysterical. I think I showed a clip of it in headlines that week. And the AEW fans were not as entertained by it. I mean, obviously they're coming. They came at you. They came at you with vitriol and venom. But you know who didn't? Will Ospreay.
Yes. I was thinking about that because I thought it was a funny idea and that it would do well with, I knew it was going to be polarizing, which is, you can always expect that. And I give everybody free reign to say whatever you want. I take my right to say whatever I want very seriously. So who am I to tell anybody what to say? So I expected the whole polarization. I thought it was great. And then as it got bigger and bigger, I was thinking, man, I wonder if Will's going to see this. And I kind of did start to feel like, man, I hope he doesn't feel like I'm just like I hate him or anything like that, but whatever. Like, I was thinking, I wonder if Will's going to see this. And then I went to bed that night, oh, what the hell? These wrestlers don't watch this shit. And I woke up early in the morning. Somebody in WWE actually texted me like, hey, man, Will Ospreay just put you over. And then I saw it. And I thought it was a perfect response from Will. It exposed everything we say about the AEW fan base for taking themselves too seriously. And, oh, my God, those people got so mad. And I saved some of the tweets responding to Will Ospreay complimenting me. Like, they're just like, Will, no, stay away from him. And it's going to be part
you
of my
don't understand. Will, you don't understand what he's trying to say.
He's tribal. He's dangerous. Don't listen to him. Like all that stuff. I thought it was so amusing to hear people so angry with Will for putting me over that it's going to be part of my next channel trailer where it's just going to be like, do not listen to pro wrestling picks,
Yeah, I try to put that self-deprecating stuff in as well. It's just funny to take like the things that they think are attacking you and just use it to promote yourself. Just a few following the Boogeyman Vince comment from Project Libertad. Says, you think AEW is desperately trying to make a new boogeyman out of Punk and Triple H? Oh, gee, you think? I mean, they are desperate for Triple H to be the boogeyman. I mean, they want him gone in the worst way because it's not even like, I don't think they ever even wanted Vince gone because, Vince was Vince. He was out of touch. He was writing the TV he was writing. They want Triple H gone because Triple H is the one that is producing good television now.
Absolutely.
What do you
and
think?
They've got an in. They've got an in with the whole Vince thing and how close Triple H perceivably was to Vince. They're going to try to string to anything that they can to be like, oh, see, there was that one mini controversy where the name Paul came up and everybody's like, oh, that's it. Paul Levesque. Paul's part of this whole scandal. And they try to cancel Triple H then. So it's never going to stop.
And even when they're shown that it wasn't him, they refuse to believe it. It's because, and Kevin, we see this a lot. It's because they want to believe it. And in 2020, in 2024, wanting to believe that something is true is more important than something being true.
Yes, 100%.
If you show these folks context, they will recoil from it like Dracula from the cross. They don't want to hear it. And we always have like everything we know from friends discussing Triple H, right? You watch all the click videos. He was never a drinker. He was never a drug guy. He was always in the gym. He didn't really go out afterwards. He wasn't a big partier. He stayed separate from everybody. Do you really think that he wants to have to bear the weight of telling his wife that her father was was running a one-man dildo train on every paralegal who walked by the building. I personally think that I would say, no, Pop, I'm going to drive myself because I don't need to know. I don't need
to know what's going on back there.
There's a reason your son strapped a jetpack to himself and tried to sell pay-per-view in China. I gotta get the fuck out of here. So it's like I firmly believe that Triple H didn't know / didn't want to know. It's
right.
It's like we all know. Hey, listen, don't go in that room 4 doors down. I'm just telling you, don't. Maybe you might peek into it as you're walking by, and then you get that little inkling of, oh, that's why I don't want to know. And then you make sure you don't know. And I
think he probably thought it sounds like everyone was under the impression that like Vince has girlfriends. Like there is consensual, it's consensual stuff going on back there. We're not going to even ask because it's none of our business. It's his personal life or whatever. And I honestly think I think that if anyone thought that there was actual assault being committed, somebody might have said something. But Stephen Nicoyle, $5, thank you, says, hey guys, new to the show, was once a big AEW, but fell off in 2021. Glad I did see what TK sold on my merch, and glad I walked away. Oh boy. And Eastside Review says, greetings in Swahili. Alfred.
That's what I'm talking about. Subscribe in Swahili to Pro Wrestling Bits, everybody. Also to this channel too. But thank you, Eastside Reviews. Greetings to you too.
Okay, Michael Dodd, $2 says, great to see Pro Wrestling Bits here. Fantastic. Let's see, you got your fan base coming in. Shaggy Phil, $5 says, Bits has to be pissed with the Swerve booking. He's been singing his praises for months. Okay, you know what? Yeah, let's talk about this before we get into the Tony Khan hilarity. I was aghast when Dynamite started, and it wasn't Swerve. Like that car pulled up, and it's the Bucks. It's the Young Bucks getting out of a car, and then the first thing we see is Orange Cassidy, like your new world champion, your groundbreaking world champion. And look, I get the people that want to celebrate Swerve being AEW's first black champion. I get the Moose thing as well, where it's just kind of like, hey, time to normalize. We're world champions. But Tony has embraced this, the first black world champion, the first black manager, the first black referee, narrative. And now by casting him aside and making that first Dynamite about everyone other than Swerve, what message does that say, Alfred?
It's a horrible message, especially on this show. There's not a show that is a worse position to do this to Swerve than the first world title appearance by Swerve Strickland. Becoming a new world champion and a first-time new world champion is about setting a tone. You look at what they did with Cody when he got the biggest win that you'll probably ever see at a WrestleMania. The first Raw after Mania after is one of the best segments I've ever seen. It went a little long, but it was him and The Rock, and they're setting up for WrestleMania next year, right? He did the thing where he put something in Cody's hand, and, there's this big mystery that we're going to find out, and it was just a great segment between Cody Rhodes and The Rock, and it set the tone for this world title run. Now we look at Dynamite. And this is your first black champion. I think you're giving AEW way too much credit by saying they love the black. They don't even want to say black. They want to say African-American. And there's nothing quite wrong with saying African-American, but you could always tell who's uncomfortable with having like black people succeed or who's unfamiliar with it than people who keep saying African-American because it just sticks out. So they've got this African-American champion on their television, and he wrestles a meaningless match, and you never see him again. And it's on the same show where the IWGP title is treated like the shiny new belt. So this AEW world title, if you're uninitiated, let's say I'm a black person who watched the Pro Wrestling Bits video, and I'm convinced AEW doesn't mess with black people. And so I haven't watched in a while, but then I hear, wow, they crowned a black world champion. And I come back, I get the impression that so that AEW world title, is that an interim title? What's going on here? It does not seem like he's the world champion of that show. They're doing him a disservice. And also, you can see the writing on the wall where Will Ospreay, that's his title to win in London. I would be shocked, and I hope I'm wrong about this, and I hope people can just throw this back in my face. You can't tell me that they don't already have a plan to take that title off his black ass. It might even be before London, because they might go with Hangman Adam Page being this evil leader of this new elite
Oh
faction.
no!
He beat Swerve, his mortal enemy, and then Osprey is the Great White Hope who beats Hangman. Like, I'm scared to death of that happening, but at the very least, I don't think Swerve holds that title past All In, so I can't give him too much credit for giving him the belt.
Well, and you know what? And what you mentioned with Moxley, like Moxley gets like the putting over the IWGP belt, which looks like the Divas Butterfly Championship belt.
It does.
Doesn't it? And they're putting that over. Jericho got more time to celebrate the FTW title than Swerve got. And look, all of the positive press that they had. The what?
And a new moniker.
Yeah.
Oh yes, the learning tree. Oh my God.
Another catchphrase.
That was The Undertaker. The Undertaker is the learning tree. That was what everyone always said. When you worked with The Undertaker, you were going to the learning tree. And that just shows you what Chris Jericho thinks of himself now. But anyway, you know, you put over this Jericho thing, you put over the Moxley thing, you put over Athena, and the positive press that was coming out of this pay-per-view all centered around Swerve Strickland. All of it. No one cared about Jungle Boy coming back. Maybe some people, maybe a few people did. No one really did. You know, the of course, you know, we were all overshadowed by Tony Storm taking shots at Triple H and Cody, Will taking shots at Triple H, of course, as we always are. But Swerve was the thing. It was the thing the fans wanted. It was the thing the fans were excited about, and he gave us nothing. And not only was it a meaningless match with Kyle Fletcher, it was a back and forth match where he got shaken far worse than he ever should have been.
Kyle Fletcher is a nobody scrub. You know what was trending earlier in the day? Him being in a terrible women's match where he got his ass whooped. The guy hasn't actually won any matches on Dynamite. This should have been 3 and out for Swerve. Listen, I think we touched on it last week, right? Up to everything, including their bizarre overuse of African American. I'm like, tell me you're not friends with any black people without telling me you're any black people. And then it's like, all you had to get, fucking wrestling isn't hard. It isn't hard. All you had to do, one, was it's AEW. I think like even their best pay-per-views get like 150,000 buys. So I guess like proportionate to the size of the audience, it's a good percentage, right? But it's still a very small number. Jesus Christ, just run a video recap of what you didn't see in the pay-per-view. You had a major title change. You've been crowing about it. If anybody who had even a slightly elevated melanin count was remotely close to the ring, they got a first, and it was announced. So it's
the
like,
referee.
That's it. So we open the show up, and we open it up with Temu Evolution. We fucking watched them walk down the hall. Why? Then we got then we go to the fucking best friends, and I'm sorry, I'm so happy that Trent Beretta is free, but when it comes to the best friends, they had a street fight and they got bailed out by someone's mother. It does not get any more emasculated than being saved by your mommy.
I'm telling you, buckle up, guys, because I think within the next 3 years, if Orange Cassidy is not the world champion, he at least has a world title shot at a pay-per-view.
Oh, I'm sure.
I would say the next 1 year.
You think we're that close? I figured with Osprey it wasn't going to happen for a while.
Oh, well, when you're saying getting a title shot, yeah, I see him getting a world title shot like in the next 1 year. But yeah, you're right. I would be surprised if he wasn't a world champion.
I mean like a pay-per-view, like a major pay-per-view where he's like in the main event. Because Tony sees big things. Everyone else sees a gimmick that you see once at a Knights of Columbus at an indie show alongside 35 other people, and you go, that was kind of funny. And then you forget about it, move on. But we've been watching it 52 weeks a year for 5 years. It's not funny anymore. It's not good anymore. And I'm sorry, everyone that wants to be like, but you don't understand. He can really wrestle. That makes it worse because he knows how to do it and doesn't.
We're 5 years into the deal. So like at this point, he should be out wrestling. And then once he's gotten so over on the heel, now he can be cocky and put his hands in his pocket for the quick pop. So that now you're still doing the dumb shit. But so now we go back to Swerve. Swerve not only is the book, it wasn't quite 50-50 because Swerve spent a good chunk of time getting his ass kicked by this nobody scrub. Again, 3 and out. He should have whooped his ass, cut the promo, let Nana do the dance, or you just don't have him on the show. But again, they don't have it's not like they have 2 brands. Dynamite is the main show. Your world heavyweight champion is in the A storyline on the A show. When you don't put your heavyweight champion in the A storyline on the A show, you told everybody you don't have faith in your champion. And Swerve can talk. It's like the guy he oozes charisma. So this isn't like Goldberg's probably a terrible example, but it's like this isn't like a Goldberg thing where he can't really cut the promos and his prowess comes from just how explosive his matches are. So you keep cranking out the matches. Swerve can actually do it all. So you showcase the guy. You let him kick someone's ass. You let him cut the promo. Well, we're gonna put him on what's the dumb show that nobody wants?
Collision. They put him on Collision.
The worst rated collision of all time. Yeah.
Meanwhile, okay, great. We've got the NBA and NHL. No, nobody already watches this fucking show. So literally no one's going to see this. So you essentially set the man up to fail.
That's exactly what they're doing.
So it's like
that's what you think. That's what you think.
These numbers.
Hold on. Alfred, that's what you think they're like purposely setting him up to fail?
I wouldn't say purposely. I will say this. As a black wrestling fan, what I'm seeing right now is something I'm very familiar with and something that wrestling has done throughout their history. So they're being very slick by saying they're making all this history and, just be happy for this history. But I've seen this movie before, is that Swerve Strickland is getting a world title when AEW is at its lowest point, when they need a black person to clean up their mess. And when they start going up in the uptrend, if they get this new TV deal, they're going to go right back to one of their Will Ospreay types or somebody like that. This is what we saw with Ron Simmons. I love Ron Simmons. You know, Ron Simmons won the WCW title in 1992. We look at that. Oh, it's historic. It's his first black WCW world champion. But WCW 92 was a shit show. You want to talk about a shit show? Jim Herd was there. He had ran off Ric Flair. He had ran off all types of wrestlers, like Stan Hansen wouldn't work there. And then Bill Watts came back out of touch, changed the rules, and the company was about to go out of business. And so they gave it to Ron Simmons to clean up their mess. Booker T, who should have won that world title after his feud with Parts Unknown when they did the best of 7 against Craig Benoit, he should have won that world title months after that. But they waited until WCW almost went out of business to give Booker T that title. This has those vibes where it's like, Swerve isn't the hottest guy at the hottest time in this company. The company is ice cold. Swerve is very talented. He's one of the top guys. But I feel like one of the only reasons he's getting it now is because AEW is in a funk and they're just trying to get a black person to clean up their mess until they can figure out what to do with their company.
Right. They're trying to get the good press. Oh, go ahead, Kev.
I'll give a little pushback on that because AEW, they're too incompetent to understand what they're not doing. I'm telling you, it's painful that it didn't actually probably even occur to Tooney. Granted, we all know where all these roads lead. It leads to Will Ospreay getting that title in London. We all know it's a fait accompli. Versus the you go back to Booker T. Well, again, even Ron Simmons, right? WCW is a shit show. They don't know what to do. And it takes Bill Watts going, well, why not Ron Simmons, in order for them to decide to go with Ron Simmons? Because at that point in time, you had All-American, one of the greatest college football players of all time, and Dustin Turpin in the background. We need legitimacy in actual athletes. So, Ron happened to be in the right place at the right time to try to get it done. Now, after we get rid of Bill Watts, what do? We take the belt off of Simmons in Baltimore. Realize we fucked up by taking the belt off of Simmons in Baltimore and then tried to pretend that we did it a week later. Yeah. And then with Booker T, at that point in time, I'll get people. Listen, it is very easy to make fun of Vince Russo, but I'll give Vince Russo this. Very similar to Jeff Jarrett. They can walk into a room and they go, this guy is a star. Even if none of these other people think it, that guy right there is the man. And we're going to find a way to make it happen. And through Hellfire and Brimstone, they fought, scratched, and clawed to put that belt on Booker T. And the second they did it, what happened? It wasn't much, but a little bit of life got injected into the WCW fandom because it was time for something fresh. It wasn't just Hogan. It wasn't just Steiner. It wasn't just Flair. It was finally someone that if you were, like, let's say if you were 13 when Nitro started, now here you are 17, 18, and holy shit, someone from Harlem Heat. It's Booker T. Booker T is probably my favorite wrestler because Booker T was pretty much everybody's favorite wrestler.
He's in my top 5.
And now it's like, oh shit, my favorite wrestler is finally the man. And again, as wacky as the storytelling was, they took care of him. They took good care of him. This again, Swerve. Let's see what gymnastics Tooney does to try to clean it up. But I'm going to tell you, it's going to be 1 week, 2 weeks tops, and we're going to go back to fucking it up again. Tooney told us everything we needed to know. Fuck Swerve. I just needed it for the woke flowers, and now that I got it, I want to put it on my brand new favorite pillar, the one who replaced Sammy Guevara. Right? Because back earlier, if you want to stay on TV, you better be kissing Tony's ass, right? Well, what happened? Sammy showed up somewhere with Cody, and he got sent to the fucking Phantom Zone. He's not hurt. He's suspended for some reason.
They try to make up that cockamamie story that Sammy got suspended because something that happened with Jeff Hardy, and it all sounded like such bullshit. Something was going on. There's even a conspiracy theory about the joke he told about Sasha Banks, and this is double jeopardy. But I agree with you, Shogun, in terms of him being so close with Cody and politically just being in the wrong position. And Sammy, I've heard, behind the scenes can be kind of like a Shawn Michaels type where he could be kind of a little hard to work with maybe, but I think there's so much more going on to this Sammy Guevara story. And this is something that I too have said in terms of Will Ospreay's that new pillar. Like Sammy Guevara is not a pillar, and Will Ospreay better be careful because there is a curse of the pillars. Like there's no pillars were on TV for months on end. And now, Jack Perry's back. So welcome back, Jack. But, Darby Allin just got hit by a bus. So these pillars better be careful with all this branding.
I'm going to push back a little tiny bit. I think that Sammy Guevara was absolutely suspended because of Mercedes Moné. 100%. I think he was. Absolutely.
I think it's possible too.
Yeah. I think that if you look at the timing, not only was it a couple days before I keep calling her Sasha, Mercedes went there, but it was when her rider came in. It was the same day her rider came in.
Yeah.
And it was 2 weeks after the Jeff Hardy incident.
Yeah.
So they waited 2 weeks after the Jeff Hardy incident, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, we have to suspend this guy for the Jeff Hardy. Which, by the way, how many referees have completely ignored possible concussion since he got suspended? Not to mention the referee in that match who ignored the concussion. So I think it was Mercedes all the way. I think the rider came in and said, "Oh, by the way, that guy, Mercedes wants him gone. I don't care how you do it. I don't care what you say. She doesn't want to be in the same building with him." And Tony's like, okay. Or it's a Colt Cabana situation where Tooney said, we don't want Sam anywhere near Mercedes. We know it's going to be a problem, regardless of if she said anything or not. Let's just get him away. And that, because I don't think CM Punk went in and asked for Colt to be sent away. I think CM Punk didn't care less. I think Tooney thought, this is my new prize. I need to make sure he's happy. I'm going to get rid of anything that's not going to make him happy. And I think that's what he did with Mercedes.
Yeah.
I mean, I Sammy for it too. So it's like,
it's a double jeopardy situation. So I covered this story when he got suspended originally, and now they're doing it again. It's so weird. And I do agree that could be definitely a reason. The timing definitely lines up, but it's kind of like they're doing him dirty. And he's a day one AEW guy. rolling out the red carpet for this WWE, ex-WWE star who I love. I love Sasha. I love Mercedes, but you're sending the wrong message to your locker room by prioritizing Mercedes over Sammy, who already got punished for this.
And by the way, has anybody seen Ricky Starks?
Who?
I saw him in the skybox at WrestleMania, but other than that, no.
Yeah, he was sitting next to Goldust. Alejandro Melendez, thank you very much. As they bring up Vince, I mentioned Jericho, crickets. Well, two very different situations there, which we don't need to get into. But okay. And Project Libertad, $5 says, I bet Tanahashi gave Moxley the IWGP belt because he felt sorry for Tony getting dunked on by everyone for that punk footage. No, I think Tony said to Tanahashi, I want Moxley to have the IWGP belt. And Tanahashi said, sure. Because for some reason, Tony gets whatever he wants from them. I don't get it.
Well, and look at what happened the next night, though. President of New Japan goes on TV and openly praises the WWE and says he's jealous of their ability to create viable stars.
Woo! I'll tell you why he gets whatever he wants. It's because he takes off the roster, pays them, and lets them work there anyway. So they get free. Right. They get free talent. They get these big names that are being promoted on American television that they can use for nothing, while Tony foots the bill for it. It's a win-win for New Japan, and then they can turn around and talk good about WWE all they want because what's Tony gonna do? He's
Speaking of Japan, now we're doing pay-per-views outside the U.S. for the next couple of months, right? We got France coming up, we got Germany coming up, we got Saudi Arabia again. Talk of the London mayor being like, I want WrestleMania and the Super Bowl and the Olympics, which I'm like, all right, slow down, buddy. WrestleMania is the only one you got a shot at. But do you think we see like Money in the Bank in Japan? And if it's in Japan, where else does it go but the Tokyo Dome? And now imagine if WWE sells out the Tokyo Dome. I don't know if maybe New Japan has some kind of exclusivity deal with them, but I could not imagine if they did that. If they did a pay-per-view in Japan, it's got to be the Tokyo Dome, right?
I love that.
Alfred.
I'd love that. I think that'd be fun. It'd be the ultimate dunk on AEW and the hardcore wrestling community that reveres the Tokyo Dome so much. And
Meltzer would have to give everything 4 stars on, right away.
It would break his heart. It would be a conflict of interest with Dave giving stars to Tokyo Dome matches, and he probably wouldn't give anything 5 stars. But I think it'd be great. WWE's done business in Japan before. I thought that's where they were heading. When they had that pay-per-view, I think it was called with the Beast in the East, where Brock Lesnar destroyed Kofi, before he took the title off of him. And I thought that they were going to be heading to where they would be in the Tokyo Dome, but I could absolutely see WWE going international to the Tokyo Dome, 100%.
If I remember it correctly, in order to get a promoter's license in Japan, they do not give them the foreigners. So you have to partner with a Japanese company, which is why you see them trying to repair the relationship. Part of after NXT signed Nakamura, there was a promise made that they would not pursue any other New Japan talent. And then we got to that WrestleMania, and Okada was sitting in the box with Joe. And it soured the relationship and then cut off any and all business. I think over the years that has softened. And then they're trying to get back in. But a lot of why you haven't seen anything is you have to work very closely with an established company in Japan in order to do business.
And that's
but don't they have? But I was about to say, don't they have that with Rossi Agawa now? Like that's they're building that.
Once that gets established, I think it'll be a couple years out before we see WWE really making moves in Japan. I think you'll start seeing, I think Julia is going to kind of work both sides a little bit. I think they'll start sending more women over there, test the waters. And I'd say within 2 years, we'll probably get a pay-per-view in Japan, especially since they've obviously dropped their India thing that they were going for before the pandemic. I could easily see Japan just taking that spot right there. They have the UK, or they're going to go after the UK. That's obvious. And in Japan, and I've heard some rumblings about Mexico too, about expansion. And I think those are the 3 places you want to hit the hardest, but yeah, once the Rossi things get set up, that should cover, unless there's something weird about it has to be a male company or it has to, I don't know about any of that. Do you know?
I think a
anything about
promoter's
that?
license is probably a promoter's license. I can't imagine it's like, he just has a license to promote female wrestlers. I can't.
Well,
imagine
I always
that's the
want.
case.
The only reason I even say that is because they always separate them. I think, like, there was always Stardom and New Japan, but they were always
Yeah.
separate companies. So I don't know
All
why
Japan women.
Yeah, there was All Japan Women. I think the only company that really did both was DDT. And they're kind of underground outlaw anyway, so I don't really know what the rules are over there about that stuff.
It's interesting because I don't remember exactly what the line was, but there was mention of the WWE's ability to train women and men together. So there may be something to that. I'll do a little research.
But now with the London Mayor saying, "Oh, we want WrestleMania," I mean, the thing that stops WWE from running Wembley supposedly is a profitability deal. Yeah, because Wembley is apparently very, very expensive to run, and even if they sold the place out, they're not making the profit that they would have made in another building. Now, if you put it, if these places are bidding on WrestleMania, you have to think Wembley Stadium comes free of charge at that point.
Yeah, well, Wembley doesn't want to bid. The problem that I've heard is that Wembley isn't interested in bidding on WrestleMania. They're just like, we're Wembley Stadium. We're not going to pay for you guys to come here. And that's the kind of holdup.
But isn't Wembley owned by the UK government? Like, isn't
No,
because the government are the one that are bidding, right?
No.
Yeah,
they're owned by the Football Association.
Okay.
So that's what the mayor's saying. The mayor's saying, if you elect me, I will bid on WrestleMania. We will get it here because the previous administration refused to do that stuff. So that's why he's willing to bid on it. WWE only likes to go overseas if it's paid. If it's a paid show where they don't have
that
to.
makes sense. You've got to ship all that stuff over there, and the production trucks and all that other the millions of dollars of equipment. It makes sense.
When they're making as much money doing Clash of the Castle as AEW did doing All In, what do you expect? That's a brilliant idea. Why give up all that expense and get less profit just to have a record crowd? Who cares about a record crowd if you're not making money? And that's all WWE cares about right now is the bottom line.
Don't forget, they are very slowly starting to build the infrastructure, right? Because NXT UK was abandoned for NXT Europe.
Right.
It will come eventually. And yes, anybody, will tell you if you're a sports fan, you understand that's why the NFL, the NFL, NHL, and NBA, they're looking overseas because the American market is already saturated. It's at full maturity. You can't get it bigger. Almost the same thing with the Canadian market. It just can't get bigger. So going overseas and essentially, plundering Europe is going to be where your next boom growth period is going to come from. It's just a matter of, it's just a matter of one, although you can hop in your car if you're a New Yorker and go on a 2-hour commute to go to work and you're still in New York. If I hop in my car in Europe and I'm driving 2 hours, I may be in France, and then second across the border, it's a whole new different set of rules. So it's interesting, it's interesting, but it's in the next, I would say within the next 10 years, you will probably start to see a major shift towards of expanding that European market. It's inevitable. These companies got to make money, and the money is there in an underserved region.
Right. So I got some super chats to get to. Shaggyfield73, thank you, $2, says Darby Allin didn't even sell getting hit by a bus.
Of course not.
No, he's not putting that bus driver over. Who'd that bus driver ever be?
No, he hit the bus. The bus didn't hit him. Darby Allin hit the bus.
He hit the, what was he on a skateboard or something?
I don't know. I just know that he was trying to do the, what's it called? The casket drop. He was on top of the street lamp. Jump down on it.
That is the most Darby Allin story ever. Like, he's the only person where when I heard the story, it's not like I stopped what I was doing and I looked it up. Like, oh my god, it's just like, of course he got hit by a bus.
Right.
Like Darby Allin gets hit by a bus.
If Randy Orton was like, I got hit by a bus, I'd be like, oh my god, I gotta find out more about what happened. When I heard Darby Allin got hit by a bus, I was just like, oh, He's alive still? Okay, cool. I don't need to
Yeah.
know anything else.
And everyone was talking about like, oh, there has to be hospital records. He went to the hospital. No, look at that picture. That was in his mom's basement that he took that picture. He didn't go to a hospital. He went to his house. Right. He took duct tape on his head, and then he went to a Broadway show 10 minutes later.
I mean, look, Crowbar sawed off like his fingertip and like put it back on with duct tape, didn't he, Kev?
Yeah,
wasn't that a Devin story?
Yeah.
So I definitely get that. John JID 999, thank you very much. Says Takeshita is getting choked out by Moxley tomorrow. How AEW dropped the ball with that guy / other young guys continues to amaze me. Yeah, Moxley is choking everyone out now. Have we noticed this?
Yeah,
like
that bulldog choke.
Yeah, everyone is getting choked out now, and it conveniently comes after the whole world watched John Moxley get choked out by some random accountant at a rec center in that amateur MMA tournament. So like now, I feel like now he just has to go choke everyone out.
Well, I think they're going to build up to them hiring that random accountant that choked him up to do the job to John Moxley so that he can choke him out. That's where this is going.
Well, now what I know now is that random accountant from the rec center can choke out a lot of AEW guys. Like I used to say this when Punk got beat up by the cameraman in UFC, where I was like, well, apparently MJF could get beaten by a UFC cameraman. It's like that Bill Watts mentality, that kind of old school mentality that I know probably has no real place in wrestling now, but for some reason, like a part of me still like thinks about that a lot. Honor Roll Dude said, hey Marvin, is Arlo your happy blue cousin that is into Nintendo stuff? Now people keep bringing up Arlo to me, and I finally had to look up what it was. Apparently it's another puppet channel that does video game stuff. I had never heard of it before I started my channel. So everyone that's like, oh, you must love Arlo. I do. I only know what it is now because of people that say, hey, Marvin, you must love Arlo. So I'm sure it's great. I mean,
it's like all you puppets look alike.
No, I'm allowed to say it. You're not allowed to say it.
You can't say that he likes a puppet just because he's a puppet.
Exactly.
I'm triggered for you.
It's a serious problem how fabricated Americans are treated. But anyway, I mean, I looked, he's got a lot more followers than I do. So good for you, Arlo. All right. So I think we're at the point now where we can start talking about it. Now, there have been many things that people have said I feel like every couple of months, somebody is like, AEW just had its finger poke of doom. I think at this point, AEW has had like 5 finger pokes of doom. But this one I am affectionately referring to as the tummy boop of doom.
There's a shooter in Daly's place.
And that's what it looked like. He got booped in the tummy by a 98-pound tween who with the front of a microphone and dropped like a stone. I mean, that's what it looks like when you fall off a building and hit the ground. That's what it looks like when you have a brain aneurysm and just your body just crumples underneath you. It was the single most ridiculous bump in the history of wrestling. Like, why wouldn't you just sell forward, hold your stomach, and then the Bucks come in, they try to help you out, and then all of a sudden they attack and they hit that driver.
So before we jump in, this is a good time to teach our viewers something very simple with wrestling. There's 2 things you need to do in order to effectively tell your story. Everybody knows what selling is, but you have to register first. Mm-hmm. The register, if I punch you in the face and my head pops back, that's the register. That tells everyone, oh shit, he got rocked. And now I can start giving you the feelings so that you can empathize with my pain. A lot of times we're so used to the hockey fight bullshit or the soy boy sissy slap fight shit. That people have forgotten to register. And it's not just an AEW problem. Not to pick an AEW. You see it on all shows. It's what does Cornette call it? As seen on TV wrestling. It's once you learn it, it will annoy you. So I don't necessarily blame that on Tony, because another thing too is everybody thinks that they can do it until they have to do it. It's not, wrestling is not the easiest thing in the world. Even though AEW has built itself upon being a participation trophy wrestling. which is why 90% of the wrestlers are the same size as Tony.
And why 100% of them have belts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how many fucking titles and tournaments do we need every year? Didn't last year, didn't we come out of a tournament just to go back into another tournament?
I'm sure at some point. I'm sure at
Is
some
that the
point.
Continental Tournament?
Yeah. Like what the fuck? But I digress. So, I guess it's like one of those, if Cornette got punched in the face by if Cornette got punched in the face by Dusty, right? Cornette's not a wrestler, so he dies. He just explodes, right? It's why his papers would go through everything, including JJ. You just take the big bump.
When Watts slapped him.
Yeah, or maybe even like when Vince took the first of many terrible stunners, right?
Right.
Isn't it funny? His first and last stunners were the two worst stunners he ever took.
Ever.
And what a way to bookend history.
Right?
Oh man, Alfred, when you were watching this, what were your first thoughts when you saw that? Oh my God! Instead of Swerve Strickland in our main event, Tony Khan is involved in the main event scene with the Young Bucks. What's going through your mind now watching as Tony becomes an on-air character at last? The prophecy fulfilled.
Jack Perry.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Jack Perry. And that was my thought, is that they stopped the Swerve promo for this bullshit. Like, I got that thought just seeing Tony Khan stand around in the ring. The man has no presence whatsoever. I've never in my life seen anybody with less authority presence who is an actual authority figure than Tony Khan. And just the way he was carrying himself, like just this beta, like agreeing with everything Jack Perry said. It's like, if you look at the intricacies of this story, Jack Perry got sent away by Tony Khan for costing him his meal ticket. There should be some resistance from Tony Khan, and even just with some common sense. Like, this is a heel. This is a bad guy. They stormed into Tony Khan's locker room like bullies earlier in the night. Here he comes, just kowtowing to the guy. Couldn't shake his hand fast enough. I thought this was such a terrible way to portray Tony Khan. He did not look like a sympathetic figure. He looked like an idiot.
No.
He looked like a guy who deserved to get punched in the stomach. And the funny thing, what I thought, because I died laughing, and I watched it a million times, seeing him get punched in the stomach. It just doesn't get old. Yeah, I've been airing it on my channel over and over. I hope I don't get like a copyright strike from Don Stevens. But it's hilarious because, like, you have to think that they rehearsed this, that it's like, this is your big angle for Dynamite, your huge angle. You have to think that beforehand. It's like, okay, Tony, we're going to punch you. You got to fall forward. Then it's you have to think that. But to Kevin's point, like, everybody thinks they can do it until you have to do it. So I'm sure he rehearsed going forward. And then I don't know if he choked or panicked or thought he'd be putting over Jack Perry or what. But, like, it was the worst bump I think I've ever seen in AEW history. We're talking about Vince, so he's taking some pretty bad bumps. But this was awful. And I just thought it was such amateur hour to see this segment the way it played out.
And what made it even worse was that, like, 2 minutes later, Shad came in and owned that room, man.
Yeah.
When he walked in that ring,
an actual man showed up.
Yeah.
My guy,
a man walked into the room.
I dedicated I was not planning to do this video because I'm still working on this documentary. I stopped what I was doing to make a whole video of Shad Khan that's up right now. Yes, he's the real man in the room.
Yeah, I love
Shad
that video.
Khan walking into the ring and going, "This is what you're spending your fucking money on?" Because that's what that look was. That wasn't, "Oh, my son." That was, this is what you're spending my fucking money on?
Get up.
Stop going in here. Get up.
This is the thing you've been annoying me and talking my ear off about for the last 40 years?
This is the thing you're going to embarrass me for the next 3 days for? This right here?
You're about to sit in a room with all my peers in a neck brace because you had to do this?
Dad, I'm selling. No, you're not selling. You're buying. You're spending. Get up.
You're in a neck brace, but you're moving like a bobblehead.
You're spending. That was my favorite thing you've ever said. Oh my God. No, yeah. So Shad comes in. I was like, is he there to finish him off? Like, could you imagine? Like, get out of my way. You didn't do it good enough. Like,
do it again. Man. Do it again.
I was like, and here's the thing: I feel that it is prophecy fulfilled. A lot of people owe me money now because I said within the first, within I think about a year ago, I was like, within the next year, we are going to see Tony Khan as a regular on-air television character. He's going to be involved in an angle. He might even be in a match. And everybody said I was crazy. And Tony Khan was like, oh, I don't want to be a character. But let me tell you something, folks. Tony Khan has wanted to be a character since the moment this started. That's why the press scrums exist.
Yeah.
Okay? Because he knew he couldn't get away with putting himself on camera right away. The Dixie Carter stuff would have started. And he does those press scrums because that's him getting himself on camera. That's him cutting his little promos in front of his sycophants. This is what he's wanted. And I don't think the Dixie Carter stuff is a fair comparison because Dixie could actually hold herself upright and like speak. Yeah, and she took a hell of a bump from Bubba Ray Dudley.
Yeah.
Listen, babyface Dixie was very endearing, very charming, right? And then even heel Dixie was kind of cool. It was different. But listen, what have we grown up with? Eric Bischoff, Vince McMahon, Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
Like
cult of personality.
Yeah. When these men enter a room, they immediately assume control. And I get it. Vince is the definitive heel boss. But if it wasn't for Uncle Eric, there would be no Vince.
No.
Eric Bischoff. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I was just making a joke. Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, Uncle Eric showed you how to do it. And Vince took it to another level. Even Stephanie, you are used to very powerful figures. Even when they're baby faces, like Shane. And you had this little tiny cuckold waddle down, looked like he got lost because his chaperone stopped paying attention and he was just wandering through the building.
Yeah.
And then he kind of got abused by the bullies, but it's like again. So we open show with Temu, Evolution, and Wish NWO. It's not. It's like I don't need great value ripoffs of things that worked, especially when it's done by unconvincing people. Triple H by himself weighs more than 3 of the members of the Elite. I'm not buying it. And Okada he legitimately looks like, well, at least I'm getting paid for this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That look. That's the look he's got. If you can put words into that look, that's the look he always has on his face.
It took Tony Khan 5 years to evolve into Mike Adamle somehow.
You know what? I was actually just going to say Mike Adamle had more presence as a general manager.
Oh yeah, he did.
And Mike Adamle had a neurological disease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Marvin, so you predicted Tony Khan being an on-air presence. So I want to know, how long do you think, because it's going to happen, I don't care what anybody says, how long till Tony Khan has a match?
Oh, I don't know. See, here's the thing. I think it'll be a tag match. I think All In is a possibility. But you never. I don't know. I think within the next year to a year and a half, I think that the heel turn is coming. And that's what I'm living for. I'm living for the hope of the Tony Khan, because as bad as Tony Khan on camera is, heel Tony Khan will be so much worse.
Okay, heel Tony Khan. I've said this for a while. Heel Tony Khan could work if Tony Khan was willing to admit what he is. If he pulled the Vince, and I'm not saying be Vince, but I'm saying dig into the part of him that everyone says he is. Vince became the cliche of Vince on TV. If Tony Khan became this crazy Nepo baby who thought he could buy whatever he wants and get anyone to do whatever he wanted them to do, and just whined and cried all the time about it, if he could tap into that, he could do it. There's no way he can do that. No way.
Never happen. No. Never happen, because it'll never happen, because it would involve self-awareness and a sense of humor about himself that he doesn't have.
Right.
That's what I was about to say, because I completely agree with disciplinary committee, but Tony Khan does not have the self-awareness for that.
No, not at all.
And when he does turn heel, and believe me, it's coming like a freight train. When that day comes, he's going to be Eric Bischoff. He's going to be NWO Eric Bischoff. He's gonna have the leather jacket. He's gonna just try to be the smarmy I'm better than you guy. And go ahead, Kev.
Dude, I would say it's going to be an unmitigated disaster because no one likes bad parodies. No one likes it. For every Naked Gun, you've got a Hot Shots Part 2 or Dracula Dead and Loving It. This will be Dracula Dead and Loving It. It hurts me to even think that there is a universe out there right now that was birthed where someone is sitting down looking at Tony Khan in a pleather jacket pretending to be cool.
It's good. I'm telling you.
You want to talk about bad parodies too? In that there's so many comparisons to WCW and AEW, both good and bad, and right now bad. And if and when Tony Khan goes heel, I can almost guarantee you there's going to be a moment where he challenges CM Punk to a fight the way Eric Bischoff challenged Vince to a fight when they got desperate.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's probably going to happen, and that's going to be the end of them.
They will make Vince Russo's WCW Reign of Terror as heel Russo look like Austin McMahon. That's how bad this will be.
But you know what? This is the playbook, though. I mean, this is the Money Mock playbook. It is you bleed the Money Mock, and then when things start to go south, and you can no longer avoid the fact that things are going south, like you can't put the blinders on anymore. You turn to the Money Mock and you say, "Hey, brother, you know what they want to see? You. They want you on TV," and that's where we're at. That's where we're at. That's what this was.
It's no coincidence that this stupid storyline is involving who it involves. It's been the guys who facilitate the fastest and biggest shift in the audience for years. Every time the Jacksons pop up on TV, people can't change the channel fast enough. And I think we're getting Omega back soon, right?
He's gonna. I think. Yeah. No.
I beat his ass tomorrow.
Yeah, he's going to be there tomorrow. He's not cleared yet, but
I think this is a one-off. I think they're in his hometown.
Nope,
they're going to bring him out, and I think Okada's going to give him a kick to the stomach, and that's going to be it.
I think he's JJ Dillon. I think he's JJ Dillon.
Oh, really? Okay. See, I was going to say, by the way, that is a shot to the stomach that you could sell the way Tony Khan sold it because the poor man has diverticulitis. But
I think he's JJ Dillon. I think they're going to do I think Tony's going to say, I need you to take care. You're the guy in charge now because I can't defend myself. So you do it. You go out there and you're my authority figure. And then Tony, and then in a few months you find out, Tony Khan was pulling the strings the whole time. He's a bad guy. It was all his idea.
I'm telling you this. I'm calling it right now. He gets into it with Okada. Okada bumps him. Because that's the match when he comes back.
Well, definitely, yeah.
100%.
That's the match. It's him and Okada. But the problem is there will be nothing left of Okada by the time Kenny Omega is cleared to wrestle. Okada is already, so far down the ladder at this point. Okay.
But
let me get to some super chats. Let me continue. Joseph J. Alexander, thank you very much. Says Tony lost the worst round of Bangkok ever. I'll Rochambeau you for it. Eastside Reviews says Ava in NXT comes off as more of a boss than Tony Khan.
Whoa,
that's 100% right. No, I agree.
I gotta agree with that. Not high praise, obviously, but I gotta agree.
Definitely not. But okay, hold on. I know we had a couple.
Under this clip, Marv, you might be forgiven.
Yeah, that's true. Project Lipiton, thank you, $5. Says Tony Khan might have a point. Pepsi Man from the PS1 game versus Harvey Weinstein will be a feud that will change the business. We'll get to the Harvey Weinstein thing in a second. John D. Lee says Okada equals Okody from as per Jim.
I've heard that one. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. And finally, Colin Taylor, welcome back, buddy. $10 says as a child of the '90s, I miss WCW NWO. That said, it's a quarter of a century later, and these guys look like a team of magic cops. Oh, I love a good Pokemon reference. Magic cops. I love that. Oh, folks, we'll be enjoined now by our final panel member of one of our final panel members of the night. Our good friend Phil Mox from Pro Wrestling Times. Phil.
Hello. How are you all doing?
Phil, you are here right at the right time. We are talking Tony Khan and the tummy boop heard around the world.
Oh, great! My favorite. This will be great.
Whoa! It knocked the soda water out of me. Oh my god. Phil, what now? After the tummy boop, obviously we see the tummy boop.
Mhm.
Then it's time for the Meltzer driver.
Oh yeah, the TK
So-
driver. Actually, let's get that
No,
right.
but you liked it though. You like legitimately liked it when it happened,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. When it went down, I put it over. I was excited because I give an A for effort when it comes to character work, when it comes to at least attempting to tell a story, when it comes to doing something that makes people go, oh man, maybe I need to tune in next week to see why the hell they attacked Tony Khan or whatever. Now, Marv roasted me, awful roasted me right on my show. All
Yes,
my
we
listeners
did.
roasted me. Everybody cooked me, but I gave it
didn't.
an A for effort, and then I instantly Tony Khan stepped on his billionaire Wang the next day with the whole Harvey Weinstein thing, and that
Which
completely
we'll get to
backfired.
that. We'll
I
get to that in
regret
a
putting
second.
it over. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know. Me and you were discussing it a little bit, and I think that it was a step in the right direction. I understood why he did it. I get it was a smart move from a business point because, hey, guess what? I'm going to be on TV the next 2 days. I'm going to be on mainstream media. I can wear the neck brace. They ask me about the neck brace. I get to put over my company.
Yep.
We get all this press. It makes sense, and especially because they knew they were taking a hit in ratings last week. So throw it on there to get people talking because they missed it because of West Coast sports or whatever was going on. So they knew they were taking the hit. Do something big. Make AEW feel like you can't miss it. Get good press the next few days. It all makes sense if someone competent did it. And that's the thing. Tony is not a competent performer, as we're about to discuss.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So here's the thing, guys. We're coming out of this, and finally now, like for one of the first times ever, we've got a situation where AEW is being talked about big time in the media, right? Like they're being talked about a lot online. Twitter is abuzz with all AEW, and it's not about somebody smacked somebody in the locker room. It's not about somebody said something about somebody backstage. It's not about a press scrum. It's finally about something that happened on the show.
Yes.
This is like one of the first times I can remember this ever happening. And I'm like, okay, they got some momentum.
Yep.
And then the next day happened. And you know what? Before we get into it, I'm going to just show the clip.
Yes.
Because it's not an AEW clip. and
Wait,
Tony
do you have
can't
the
stop
Larry
it.
David? Do you have the Larry David music first, by any chance?
Oh, you know what? I do not, but
It's on my
I do
timeline. I
love.
got something like that.
Oh man, I love that. Hold on, let me let me boot that up because I mean this was the ultimate. AEW has something in their lap, and they completely dropped the ball on it.
This was like if like a late Mad TV parodied wrestling,
Yes.
like after Will Sasso and everyone funny left the show.
Yes. Okay, here we go. Share the screen. Let's turn on the
Japan
down here. Okay.
because of that devastating Meltzer driver, which has been rebranded.
Well,
I
honestly,
understand.
guys,
So here we go. He's sitting there with his little neck brace on, and I talk about like the look he's had on his face since the moment he hit the ring in the script for this week's headlines, and I say that he looks like an 8-year-old sitting in front of a plate of ice cream.
Oh yeah, it's really good. This is delicious. This will be
He's
fun.
just
Yeah, Meltzer.
just so delighted. Here we go.
changed the name a couple months ago to the Tony Khan driver.
Oh, the Tony Khan driver. It's named after me. Huh?
Wait, you knew they changed it a couple months ago? I mean, the clues were there.
They called it the Tony Khan driver. And in a lot of states, it's illegal in the state of Tennessee. And for them to do
Okay, we're just like skipping forward right to it's illegal in the state of Tennessee. What is he talking about?
That's a shout out to Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, it's a shout out to Andy Kaufman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andy Kaufman.
that to me in front of millions of people around the world and a great audience live Wednesday night on TBS.
Yeah.
It scared me and it scared my family. And I just feel really.
I feared for my life.
It didn't
There
scare
it
his
is.
family. You saw Shad.
I
He didn't look scared. He was
No,
gonna
he did
beat
not look
all of them up if he would.
He didn't look scared at all. You know what? I like his new stuff, but sometimes you just got to hear the classics. That's his version of Freebird.
And that could be his
Really
number one
lucky that I'm
disciplinary
here at the
committee. It could be his
NFL
number one
draft.
heel line.
Oh,
I did it
100%.
in my life. That could be something he says that can get a ton of heat.
But he
Tony
would never
Khan
do it.
driver. Is that a wrestling move or like a job position? What is that?
God.
With
Yeah, that's what if he keeps it up, it's what Wardlow will be doing in the next couple months.
Jaguars and able to still be working at the Jaguars and AEW right now.
Yeah, and you could hear the folks who came to your assistance yelling, "What the hell are you doing? This is a billionaire. You got to be careful."
His father, Shad, came into the ring.
Yeah. Well, did Shad tell you like you got to stay out of the ring? Like, is he concerned for your well?
He has not talked to me since 1996.
He just gives me shit and tells me to go away, you know.
I say, Dad, you'll never guess what they did in the Tokyo Dome, and he throws $10,000 at me, and I leave.
Well-being here?
No, he was very angry at the people that assaulted me. My dad loves AEW
because they didn't finish the job.
He paid the money to put me in more than a net price.
Oh, could you imagine?
He's a big fan of what we do. Wednesdays on TBS and Saturdays, just like some.
You know what? You gotta give it to him. He is a Shilla.
He's
like
a promoter.
He is a promoter.
He is. He's a student of the game too, which is what surprises me about the lack of self-awareness and all the things he gets wrong about. After seeing WCW fail, the amount of mistakes he's making that's so similar. For such a student of the game, that's what's so frustrating about seeing AEW struggles.
It's humorous. I'm sorry. If you go back, what did he say? If what the hell is if
Ted Turner knew 1% about wrestling as I did, WCW wouldn't have gone out of business. What I find hilarious is that not only was he like preaching, shouting from the rooftops, "Oh, I'm not going to make the mistakes of all the promoters in the past." He's literally making the mistakes of every promoter from the past.
Yeah.
All of them.
It's like he's just punching down a list.
Yeah.
And by the way, Ted Turner knew more about wrestling than Tony Khan ever forgot. So,
on TNT every week. He watches every show, and he never expected.
I'm sure he
It's
does.
Never happened before. You know, AEW. We've been doing this for 5 years. Or like the Pepsi of pro wrestling.
Okay, here we go.
Yes,
here we go.
Not been a challenger brand or the most successful sports startup since the AFL pre-merger. There has.
I mean, maybe they are.
Yeah,
because
I said that backwards, by the way. But sorry.
How many sports startups have actually So maybe okay, but I don't know.
It's not been a challenger brand that has gained as much market share as AEW.
False. TNA had a lot more market share than you had, buddy, back in the day. Like back in the Spike TV days, they were drawing 3 million people.
Yeah.
Insane how people just forget TNA.
In many years, we are like the Pepsi of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And we're up against a really evil juggernaut. WWE is our competitor. That's who we're facing. AEW, like the Pepsi of pro wrestling. WWE's like the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling.
Oh my God!
I'm really proud of what we do down here.
All right, Tony.
Look! Watch the host. Watch the host. Watch them.
WWE's like the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling, and I'm really proud of what we do down here.
Look! This one just looks at. He's like, I cannot believe he just said that. Yeah. And this one's like, I gotta jump in. I gotta stop him.
Well, they've got producers screaming in their ear, probably like, "Get him off TV."
Oh, he can't insult an NFL a content partner.
No,
get him off.
Where does Harvey Weinstein come? Like, the joke I was using before was, it'd be like he was like, we're like the new fresh soda, like we're like Mr. Pibb, and WWE is like Dr. Mengele.
Yeah,
that's what WWE. Like,
it's not congruent at all. Like, I'm a stand-up, so I analyze every joke to death, and this is the most incongruent joke I've ever heard in terms of him going from Pepsi to Harvey Weinstein. And to your point, he could have said, we're the Jordan Peele of pro wrestling. We're the Wes Anderson of pro wrestling. Like
more like the Michael Bay.
Yeah. But instead, he goes from Pepsi to a sexual predator.
Like the Pepsi of pro wrestling. WWE's like the Harvey.
So is Tony Khan like the Woody Allen of pro wrestling? I don't know what is it.
Oh God, that's Jericho. That's Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
Pepsi of pro wrestling. WWE's like the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling.
Oh, here we go.
And I'm really proud of what we do.
Okay.
Down here.
Okay.
And
all right, Tony. Hold on, real quick. What's the prognosis? What are the doctors telling you?
Well, to be honest,
he did not expect them to stop him.
No.
Yeah, he was so proud of himself too after he told that joke. You can tell he thinks that he just hit a banger.
Look at his face. Look at his face.
Yeah.
Look at that.
He's so proud of himself, dude.
He's so pleased with himself. That is like the look that like of like the show pony prancing back to the stable after like
Yes.
I really showed them.
Oh my god. You know he's just thinking nailed it.
Yeah,
nailed it.
Here, let me fix it real quick. If he would have even just said like, WWE used to be ran by Vince McMahon, who he's kind of the Harvey Weinstein of, it's still not a great comparison, but at least it makes some kind of sense at all. If he would have compared WWE to the Weinstein Company or Miramax, that would have made a little bit of sense, but this made no sense at all.
So when I first heard it, I didn't realize right away that like, oh, okay, this was a line he had planned. I thought he like just kind of got caught in a word salad and said the first thing, and he didn't want to say the word Coke.
Yeah,
because if he said Coke, then he knew that everybody would be screen capping him talking about Coke because of who he is and what we all know he likes to do.
By saying Pepsi, you're opening yourself up to those jokes even more, hand, because like the meme going around is like, oh, I thought Tony Khan was more of a Coke guy, and it's like, and then CM Punk likes Pepsi, so Pepsi's not that great of a choice either.
No,
it kind of makes me wonder if somebody was in the room, like a producer, if he was getting notes or something. They're like, don't say Coke, they're a sponsor. Don't say they're like Coke. And the first thing he thought of was Harvey Weinstein.
No, but he
Weinstein was in the news, so he was
the
last topical thing he saw, and it was just Weinstein.
Weinstein.
I like to think that maybe Tony Khan is stalking me, and he saw me on the WW Pro live show, and it was the first thing we talked about was Harvey Weinstein's acquittal in the state of New York. So maybe I'm partly to blame. Yeah, right. Okay.
It's his dental plan. Lisa needs braces moment.
So long, dental plan. Lisa needs braces. Oh, I love it. What a great pull. What a great pull.
The great irony to me of Tony Khan, and this is like irony upon irony, is that he's clearly an Andy Kaufman fan, right? And he's clearly a Letterman fan. And those are two of my comedy heroes, in that those guys were always in on the joke, and like they were above, the joke, and they were just kind of in on it. But this guy is like the least in on the joke, to where we always talk about his self-awareness and the fact that he's not good at making these jokes. He's not good at being in on what's funny about him. And this is the most anti-Andy Kaufman type moment, even though that's what he's going after.
Andy Kaufman did everything he could to make himself the butt of the joke. And because of it, got respected. Yes. Tony Khan does everything he can not to make himself the butt of the joke. And because he does, he gets no respect.
It's funny because we're building the irony into it. Like, it's not funny because Tony Khan thought it'd be funny to screw up a joke on national TV like that. It's funny because we're building the irony into it.
Yeah, that's the best point right there.
At the end of the day, you've got this situation where the Tony Khan that we see and the Tony Khan that he sees and he is in his daily life are two very, very different people. Yeah. He sees Andy Khan. He thinks he went out there and hit it out of the park. And I don't think he surrounds himself with anyone that would be like, Tony, that was a major misstep. Maybe his father kicked in the door and was like, what are you doing? Why is the owner of every NFL team that is currently making a mint off of these WWE championship belts blowing up my phone right now, asking why our merchandising partner has been compared to Harvey Weinstein on national television?
What did Tony do? He gave the WWE a sports-centered covered segment for Monday night.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, Patrick, get your ass to Raw, or what the hell did Meltzer keep calling him?
Patrick Mahomes.
He said it like 17 times.
Yeah, he's Puerto Rican now. I don't know if you guys didn't know that.
But like the Raw thing is a perfect comparison, because you can go Google WWE NFL rings today, and all you get is page after page after page of positive press. The day after Tony, you got a few things like TMZ did something. There was a few Jacksonville stuff, but otherwise there was nothing. The funny thing is, if you look at any social media on Saturday, it was filled, or Friday, I guess, it was filled with people saying, oh, look, they pick out the one positive thing that came out of that interview and they'd post it all over. So it looked like they were doing great. And I didn't see any positive stuff from WWE because WWE fans don't feel like they constantly have to defend the product from everyone else. It just speaks for itself, you know. And I wish that AEW would be, AEW just as a whole feels insecure. Everything about AEW feels insecure. That might be the best word to describe it, honestly.
And it's driven by Meltzer and Tony. They're constantly screaming about the tribalism. It needs to go away. It didn't exist. But then they'll go out of their way to take a shot. You know, I think Meltzer tries to pretend that he hides his bias with clever notes in that word salad. You know, he calls a newsletter. And then Tony just can't control himself. So it's like the two guys who are constantly screaming about being the victims of this toxic fan culture are the ones who are providing the foundation for it. We didn't have this during the Monday Night Wars.
No.
Like, I do it all the time. In my freshman year of college, my roommate was from Boston, and we needed to figure out how to watch hockey games and wrestling at the same time. At one point in time, we had 3 fucking TVs on in the room, so that I could watch Raw and Nitro, and he could watch Bruins. It's like we made it work. My sophomore year, everybody was screaming, "It doesn't matter." Or actually, I guess maybe in hindsight, probably wasn't the best thing to do because it was when Jeff Jarrett was leaving. It accidentally turned into a war of the sexes, and people kept screaming, "Women are weak and men are the dominant species." It's like everybody was just loving this shit.
Yeah,
and you were,
you know, if you had a pager in the late 90s, okay, like if you were in like in high school or in college and your pager went off and you took it off your belt and you looked at it and you saw 316, you knew that one of your friends was standing behind you about to give you a stone cold stunner. Like it was all the time.
Yeah, and you know, I just read a comment recently saying that, oh, if the internet was around that back then, it would be just as tribal as it is now. And I totally disagree, because number one, the internet was around and I was on it, and it was almost like you get in an argument with your buddy over which baseball team is better. Right? You'll sit there and you'll fight tooth and nail and you argue, and then afterwards you're joking about something else. You're just happy that you have a friend who likes baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what wrestling was like. You
know what's so funny about you saying that? If I can say, so not to name drop, but I interviewed Tony Khan himself during Better Days, and he brought up that exact same point where he said, "Oh, it was tribal during the Monday Night Wars. You remember? Were you on the internet then?" I was like, "Yes, I was, and it was great. Like we weren't being tribal." What are you talking about? I said that to the man's face.
You were just so happy to talk to somebody who liked wrestling that you didn't care what they liked, and you joke around and make, "Oh, WCW is bullshit. Oh, we love WWF, blah, blah, blah." You would joke around, but at the end of the day, you'd go out and have a beer with them because they're a wrestling fan and you all love the same thing. And everyone else in the world thinks we're ridiculous. So why do we fight with each other? That was the mindset back then.
Right.
Yep.
And it's gone. It's completely gone now.
And these were chat rooms. There was more anonymity. Like you think like, oh, it's just because like we have Twitter and it's anonymous, and no, there was so much more anonymity and so many fewer regulations in those chat rooms back in the late 90s. It was the Wild West, and people were able to compose themselves.
Yeah, and you couldn't. I mean, you know, people weren't doxing each other back then, and people weren't in the smaller.
You couldn't
and that kind of stuff. You couldn't, and it didn't matter because really, you know, think about how many people wore NWO shirts to WWF shows, or how many people wore Austin 316 shirts to WCW shows. Do you think those people got shouted down when they went to WCW? No. Absolutely not. They got, you know, Austin 316, let me buy you a beer. That's what it always was.
I used to think it was cool when I would watch Nitro and I'd see a guy in the front row wearing an Austin 316 shirt.
Yeah.
Like it was like, to me, that was the crossover. Like that was well, into my little like middle school brain. That was like, they're subliminally planting the seeds of the big Austin Goldberg match that I've been dreaming of all my life. Like man, remember when that was the thing we all wanted, was Austin and Goldberg?
I'm
and then
surprised we
WrestleMania
never got it.
Well, at WrestleMania 20, you had them standing in the ring. I talked about this in my WrestleMania face lock feature, where like they're standing in the ring face to face, and Austin stunners Goldberg out of the WWE, conceivably at the time forever, and no one remembers that happened.
Yeah,
that should have been Austin and Goldberg face to face. Was not even a blip on WrestleMania moments when they want to make someone scratching their ass a WrestleMania moment. At this point,
20 is one of my all-time
crazy.
personally on a personal level. But I know I'd be an exception to that for sure.
Because I watched 1, 10, 20, and 30 in preparation for 40 and did the video on it. 20 is a lot better than people give it credit for.
It was so good.
It's the all-time most underrated WrestleMania, I think, for how good it really is, for how good people give it credit for being. I remember I saw that. I got together with my friends and watched it as a pay-per-view, and it was some of the most fun I've ever had watching a pay-per-view.
And the Kane Undertaker return. Sorry, Marv, but they built up to that so long and so well, and they were just building up to Undertaker, and he didn't show up ever, but they would just like play a gong or cut the lights, and you're like, wait, is he back? And then he returned as the Dead Man at 20. That always sticks out to me as like one of the.
I will never forget the lights going out. Yes, the lights going out and hearing, oh yes, and I flipped out. Like just flipped out. And I was like, I remember my big concern in the months leading up to this, because there was the rumor, like the internet was around back then. We all knew. Everybody was like, oh, he's gonna get buried in the Buried Alive match. He's gonna come back as the Dead Man WrestleMania 20, face Kane. And my big concern was he better have enough time to grow his hair back.
Yeah.
That was my big concern, because I didn't want to see like, Mean Mock American Badass Undertaker. I always called him Mean Mock, and I pissed my friend off so much with that. But anyway, sorry, we got off on a WrestleMania 20 tangent for some reason. So yeah, once again, what could have been a thing that generated interest in the actual product has turned into people dunking on AEW, people disgusted with something that Tony Khan did, and of course, the usual suspects defending it. And, trying to say it was some kind of like big statement of like support for Janelle Grant or the Vince situation or whatever it was. But
can we remember that she is just suing for lost money?
Yeah.
She doesn't give a shit about any of the other things she said Vince does. She just wants a payday.
And you know what? She's owed the money. Vince, like this is like, I think Vince is like,
Vince isn't on trial for sex trafficking. He's being sued because he's a carny who doesn't pay his debts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, you said you were going to give someone $3 million. You give them one, they can sue you.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So big thanks to Super Chat Savage Wrestling Podcast, $2. Love you content. Keep up the great work. Oh, another wrestling podcast to check out. There you go. Savage Wrestling Podcast.
Yeah, shout him out, man. He's a good dude.
Yeah, welcome to the show. All right, just looking through to see if we have anything else we got to get to here before we move on. So anything else anybody wants to add to this? Matthew Alexander, $20. Thank you so much. No message there, but yeah, let me know if there's something you need to say. Thank you very much. That was a very generous super chat.
Before we go ahead, I'll just say that one of the big things that I want, this isn't something that we can judge the success of right now. Right. Like this is something that a month from now or 2 months from now, we'll really see. But I notice everyone seems to be like, especially it's from both sides too. WWE fans immediately want to say this was the worst thing. This is good. The finger poke of doom, blah, blah, blah. AEW fans saying this is going to get us mainstream press. This is going to bring back the ratings. We don't know. All we know is what we saw. And honestly, I'm kind of with Phil if you cut out the Weinstein interview, okay, if you cut that from existence, even him moving his neck and stuff like that didn't bother me so much. I think it's carny. I think it's silly, but it's wrestling. And that's something that I don't think AEW has really done a lot. I mean, okay, it depends on your definition of wrestling, I guess, right? But part of wrestling for me is the promotion. It is the work. It is the kayfabe. And one thing that we didn't touch on that kind of really hurt that kayfabe is on Collision when they said that Tony Khan wasn't healthy enough to travel, and then he came out and danced afterwards in the neck brace, knowing that it was going to get put on the internet. Like, I understand you saying, oh, wrestling's fake. Why did he have the neck brace on? Why? It doesn't, there's no consistency there. And that's what this whole thing is missing, is consistency, you know?
And even worse than that. So we did a live watch along on Pro Wrestle Time's live show. It was, Saturday. And so we go live Wednesday and Saturday. We watch Dynamite and Collision like every time. And so before, I was on the app or whatever, so the basketball game was running over. And before Collision even went on the air, Tony Khan came out there with a microphone in his neck brace and was talking to the crowd and was like, oh yeah, we're going to find out what happened to me in a major announcement in a little bit tonight. And it's like, why don't you just tell them all? You're standing right there. It was the stupidest fucking thing. And that's
watch Time Cop
show for me.
Make sure you watch Time Cop when you get home.
Time Cop, don't forget.
Like, he came out in the neck brace and then he kind of sold it a little bit after the dance. Like, oh, it kind of hurts a little bit. It's like, dude,
he shouldn't be anywhere near television. If he's gonna protect a business like this and go around with these neck brace interviews, if you're in your product where the injury happened, kayfabe, you're like almost dead.
Yeah, you're gonna kayfabe the NFL, but you're not gonna kayfabe your own show.
Yeah.
Remember when the Sandman was blind and didn't leave his house for like 3 months?
Yeah.
He doesn't even got to take it to that level, but
no one's saying take it to that level, but he's not keeping kayfabe to protect the business. He's doing it because it's cool.
It's fun playtime for him. Yeah,
fun.
It's getting him on TV.
It's the ineptitude of it all. Again, listen, we know that the segment wasn't executed the best. But, like everybody said, we have to give them an A for effort, even begrudgingly. They attempted to tell a story. So fine. They finally listened. They did it. They didn't do it well. Hey, guess what? Tony's in a neck brace, and they got national mainstream coverage for the first 48 hours, and then Tony took it away. And again, even all the shit moving in neck brace, I even said on Twitter, you know what? I'm not going to pick on him for it. It's kind of endearing because we all know what Tony is. Tony's just a little fucking dweeb. Mm-hmm. So, you've got to kind of you cut him some slack because, he's trying. He's doing well, but he's trying. And then he does dumb shit like come out and do the lane dance on Collision. It's one of those, it's just ineptitude. It's ineptitude. And it's now that we are officially out of the honeymoon period, how long before even your diehards decide that, I've kind of had enough? Because I get it. They were up against some stiff competition last week. But NHL started after Dynamite.
Yeah.
The games that were on were kind of done before the end of Dynamite. You knew what the result was.
Yeah.
You could have tuned back like wrestling fans. Well, again, remember Monday Night Raw, Nitro, NFL during football season, big games. People jump back and forth. Mm-hmm. People have picture in picture. We are not in an era where it's all or none.
To be completely fair, they were on at 5:00 on the West Coast.
They were. The West Coast 8% did hurt it, and the mainstream sports competition did hurt it. Having said that, the degree that it got hurt is not all West Coast competition and all that. That's too low of a number to only attribute to the fact that they were on early, this, that, and the third. So, there is the validation to the fact that they were in a tough situation. But that's a terrible number, and I think that's indicative of what you're hinting to, Kevin, is that their hardcore fan base is starting to crater. And I think if we look back, what's really hurting them is that CM Punk, we're going to air the footage. I think that's going to be a hurtful item for them, is because they did that a couple of weeks ago. And I think a lot of casual fans who probably thought CM Punk was coming back, probably thought they're teasing a match with CM Punk and Jack Perry. And then the last 2 weeks, those numbers have fallen off a cliff each of the last 2 weeks. And I think that's just people saying, oh, this was just a one-off stunt. Okay, well, screw that. And the pay-per-view is not doing a good number either.
Yeah,
They made themselves. I'm sorry. They made themselves Bush League, and there's really no coming back from that. Normies want to be a part of the big fun thing, old school MCU, the WrestleMania season.
Right.
The second you paint yourself as less than, good luck. Good luck getting your buddy to come by. And he can't come to. He doesn't really come by on Mondays and Wednesdays anymore because his girlfriend hates wrestling.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? He can come by during WrestleMania season because his girlfriend wants to see The Rock. What's the draw to Dynamite? Jack Perry? Hey, Dylan's from 90210. That's his kid.
Dylan's kid, yeah. And I think the more Tony Khan appears on screen, I think that's going to. I call him Tony McCon now because he's fully just becoming an on-screen villain personality. Yeah. And I think the more he appears on screen, we're going to see it go the opposite way than they think. I think the ratings are going to keep going down. Did you guys see that picture of because they did the 3-hour collision? Sorry to sort of go off topic, but someone memed like they put Tony Khan skiing down the ratings of the
I saw that.
That went from like 1 million from the NBA game to the end of Rampage. And the number's so inflated as well because you got to think like 1 million people were shutting their TVs off. And what I really have a gripe with, I don't know if you guys touched on this, but they parade Jon Moxley out, roll him out the red carpet, New Japan world champion, he's back, he's here. Swerve, they don't even put him on Dynamite, and then they just stick him on this collision that nobody's watching, and they just expected the NBA rollover to just, here's Swerve, you guys enjoy. Like, I don't understand what he was even thinking. It just, to what you guys were just saying, it just undermines, it just further pushes them down as like Bush League. They value other titles more than their own title. They value other champions more than their own champions. And yeah, man, it's just Bush League. It's amateur hour. It's
like Tony said, hey, you know what? You know who watches basketball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he did. That's what they thought. And like, how is that? Like, nobody watches Collision, dude. Like, more people are watching Dynamite. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I don't know how anybody's telling them this shit's a good idea.
I can speak to that point. I was actually getting my hair cut during that episode of Collision. I was getting a haircut in the barbershop. They were watching the NBA game, and Collision came on right after in a black barbershop, and they tried to change the channel. And I was like, no,
the brothers. But Dave said the African American demo. They watched the NBA.
I swear that's what else were they thinking? Like, how is that? How did Tony? Because what Meltzer said, he was they thought it would be a great the demographic rollover would be great for Swerve to be that's what he's saying, and I'm like, well, what does that even mean? Like, why wouldn't you just put him on your main show, your marquee show? He's supposed to be your marquee world champion. It's just undermining themselves. They never fail to fail in AEW.
Great Meltzer impression, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, Phil, you definitely do have a good Meltzer impression, Phil.
Thanks. I cover him every one of the podcasts I do a Dave Meltzer dumb moment of the week.
I know, it's my favorite. It's my favorite thing to be there for.
Yeah, it's getting over like Rover, and so I've had a little bit of practice.
By the way, Triple H Booker of the Decade said Tony Khan is the tribalism chief. That's amazing. I love that.
It.
Oh man, and big thanks all Jake. I'm in Arizona with DirecTV. It always airs live here, so take that for what you will.
Yeah,
so
I'm in California and it airs live where I am too.
All right, so are we ready to move on to other things, or like are we done with tearing down Tony for a little bit?
Yeah, Tony McCon, R.I.P. Just kidding.
I am interested. I'm interested in this angle, and I watch AEW every week. I don't want it to come off like, I just want this company to fail. What they did last week was enough to get me interested in what they're going to do with Kenny Omega and moving forward.
Me too. I was thoroughly sports entertained.
Yes.
At the end of the day, he was asked about the Weinstein comment, I think today or yesterday or something, and he was like, "Oh, well, it got people talking," and he's trying to take that controversy creates cash, Eric Bischoff kind of mentality. Again, stealing from Eric, taking everything from Eric Bischoff, the guy that he hates more than anything in the world right now. But he, what cash is this creating? The Dynamite rating was awful. The Collision rating was awful. Mm-hmm. It's not equating to growth, and that is the problem. It's what you can't go by what Twitter says. You can't go by what Cage Match says.
Well, if
It's,
this week pops a rating, though, then okay, maybe
We'll
people are
see.
tuning in because they're interested. We can't really, because I will give Tony credit. He didn't pull the overrun trick and then get attacked with the Tony Khan driver. They actually renamed it in the Tokyo Dome last year. Anyways, but sorry, I can't help myself. But yeah,
I
so
think-
he didn't do the rollover trick, and then they did it in the final segment, and it drew a terrible rating. But it's not like they announced, "Hey, Tony Khan's going to get dropped on his head and sell hilariously." Like you guys remember when Charlie Murphy kicks Rick James, and he's like, "Wow." That's what fucking Tony Khan looked like when he ate that belly shot. Wow. Fuck you,
Darkness.
Tony Khan.
I think
Tony
I love
Khan.
that.
I should have never gave you money.
I think the problem.
What did the 5-finger poke of doom say to the face?
Okay, that's a good. We're gonna go for our palate cleanser. We always have a little weekly palate cleanser that we like to go to here, and usually it's we try to find something funny from wrestling's past. The last 3 weeks, it's all come from one man and one man alone, and that means it's time for our Dr. D, Dave Schultz promo of the week, because Dr. D, Dave Schultz is by far and away my favorite wrestler currently. Not currently, but like currently is the thing that I am loving to see the most. So last week we got to watch Dave Schultz make Mean Gene bust out laughing because he was talking about San Francisco and I wanted a woman. I saw a lot of men that looked like women.
So funny.
It's amazing. So here we go. Dave Schultz and Mean Gene once more. Let's take a listen. Oh, I love it so much.
Coliseum Monday, June the 4th. Come on in, Dr. David Schultz, if you would, please. Notwithstanding the big match between...
By the way, we're in the last time it was the AWA. We're in WWF now.
Oh, is this what? Oh, okay. Got it.
Is it? Yeah.
And Sergeant Slaughter, you've got a crack at the former Marine prior to that out at the Cape Cod Coliseum.
You know, I'd give anything in the world to get my hands on him before the Sheik got his hands on him.
You're going to do
Because
it.
after the Sheik gets his hands on you, boy.
Hold on. That was one of my. I love the Mean Gene. You're gonna do it. Like Mean Gene. We talked about this last week. Mean Gene loves to interject himself.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Out at the Cape Cod Coliseum.
You know, I'd give anything in the world to get my hands on him before the Sheik got his hands on him.
You're going to do
Because
it.
after the Sheik gets his hands on you, boy, or after I get my hands on you, ain't nobody going to want you anymore. We're going to make mint.
He doesn't know. He does not know whether him or the Sheik gets Sergeant Slaughter first. I love it.
Meat out of you, boy. We're gonna make dog meat out of you. We're gonna beat you up so bad. And you're talking about combat boots in Vietnam. I never seen a soldier in my life while I was in Vietnam wear steel-toed combat boots, you idiot.
Dave Schultz blowing up Sergeant Slaughter's gimmick completely. He was never,
Stolen valor.
just completely buries him.
He just hit him with the fucking what are those of like whatever year this was 1980.
While I was in Vietnam wear steel-toed combat boots, you idiot. It rains a lot there. You're a goof. You ain't got it.
It rains a lot there. You a goof. I love him so much.
Everything upstairs. But Cape Cod, wherever that is, I'll get there.
You know, I've got a good friend of mine who lives out there.
I don't care if your whole family lives there. I don't care if your mama lives there. I don't care if your daddy and your mama lives there together. I don't care if your mama lives with another man there. I want Sergeant Slaughter there. And I don't care if you bring your mama with you.
Okay. We have to zoom in again.
That's great, man.
Oh, I don't care. I don't know what Cape Cod was. Mean Gene about to give him directions? Was he about to launch into a personal anecdote in the middle of Dave Schultz's promo about his buddy Fred who lives in Cape Cod? And Schultz's
I
reaction.
miss Mean Gene, man.
Oh, Kev, what were you saying?
I've got a buddy named Todd. He goes down to P-Town every couple of weeks. He's always there for Bear Week. It's a good time. You should check it out, Dave.
Oh, God. We need to hear. And Schultz just rips him to shreds. I love it.
Everything upstairs, but Cape Cod, wherever that is, I'll get there.
You know, I've got a good friend of mine who lives out there.
I don't care if your whole
His face when Gene, like, I want to see, like, look at this look he gives him.
Of mine who lives out there.
I don't care if your whole family lives there. I don't care if your mama lives there. I don't care if your daddy and your mama lives there together. I don't care if your mama lives with another man there. I want Sergeant Slaughter there. And I don't care if you bring your mama with you, Sergeant Slaughter. I'll slap her like a dog. And I don't care if you bring...
He's gonna slap Sergeant Slaughter's mother.
Jesus.
Lost in all this is he just implied that Mean Gene's dad is a cuck. And
Yes, yep. There's a lot going on in the Oakland household that we don't know about.
Your dad is a cuss. He stands on the side of the bed. I don't got time for that.
And he tells that woman.
Slaughter there. And I don't care if you bring your mama with you, Sergeant Slaughter. I'll slap her like a dog. And I don't care if you bring your daddy. I'll beat him like a dog. Now, see, I don't
care if your daddy sleeps on the end of the bed watching your mama with Mean Gene's daddy.
Here. You know what I mean?
I believe there's an
Now
attitude
bring your
problem
family
there,
with you.
yes.
I believe you got the problem.
I don't have
You
it.
look like you got a problem. You're getting thin on the head. You're ugly. I don't like you. You got...
How does this now turn into... First of all, you're getting thin on the head.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure we're as thin as thin can be up there at this point with Gene. But I love how this now he tries to interject again, and this turns into just Schultz cutting a promo on Gene.
I don't have
You
it.
look like you got a problem. You're getting thin on the head. You're ugly. I don't like you. You got a bad, manners. You and Sarge might be kin. You both might be from Cape Cod. So just bring the whole family and line them up, because I'd like to slap about 15 or 20 of them plumb silly after I get through with you, Sergeant Slaughter.
Thank you very much, Dr. David Schultz, outspoken.
You're welcome.
Big day
You're
coming up
welcome.
at the Coliseum on Monday, June 4th. You won't.
God,
You're ugly and I don't like you. All right.
You ugly and I don't like you.
He doesn't get the credit he deserves. And you know, Austin will tell you himself, Steve Austin took a lot of his stuff, like his flow, from David Schultz.
Oh, well, yeah, he wasn't using it anymore.
Yeah.
After he slapped John Stossel, he never appeared again, ever. Yeah. Which is funny, because didn't Vader like slap a reporter like years later?
He did.
Like,
that was like in Saudi Arabia or like Dubai or something like that with the Undertaker.
Yeah.
The Undertaker just completely no-sold it. He was just sitting there like nothing happened.
Yep.
The Undertaker was just like, that's what you get. That's what happens.
Well, yeah, that wasn't John Stossel, though. That's a big difference.
At that point in time, John Stossel was like a major force in media. And
he also threatened to sue WWE, and I believe he did, and he got paid for it.
Yeah, he won, yeah. So at that point, you exposed all network partners.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
But I mean, I watched the Dark Side of the Ring episode on Schultz, but I don't remember if he said that like Vince like still paid him on the slide. I know he said Vince thanked him, for defending the business, but I don't know. I don't know.
He was a little bitter. He did become successful in his own right. I think like bounty hunting or whatever.
Yeah, he became a bounty hunter. Could you imagine like you committed like a small crime and Dr. Dave Schultz like shows up at you? I don't care if you bring your mama out here, but you're coming with me in this can of bear mace. I would have watched that over Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Go with Christ, brah.
Knowing him, he could have just liked being a bounty hunter better anyway. right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he seems like the guy who would like being a bounty hunter better than wrestling.
I got to tell you, the joke that I am most proud of in all of Tooneytown Wrestling is the week that Grayson Waller was on that show in Australia, and he stepped to the host, and then I had Tooney Khan get slapped by Dave Schultz. That is probably the joke that I am most proud of in all of Tooneytown Wrestling. Alt Jake, thank you very much. Says TK would actually die if Dr. D gave him that look.
I mean, imagine if Dr. D slapped TK.
Then he need a neck brace.
He'd disintegrate. The neck brace would be shoot at that point.
The sonic explode out of his body.
He slapped somebody super chatted me the other day. And we're like, yeah, if Tony Khan got slapped, you'd see the white powder fly off his nose. I was like, Jesus.
Wait, didn't I say that on your show?
Oh, was that you? Okay, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was me that said that.
Yeah, someone said it. Someone popped me with that the other day.
Lawrence W78 super chat. Thank you. Says I never knew Wolfman Jack was a wrestler. You know what? This is the thing that I love the most about this show is that we are educating the public on the glory that is Dr. D Dave Schultz. Because look, I don't want to watch any Dave Schultz matches. I mean, I'm sure they're fine, but the promos are really where it's at. You know what?
Go ahead. I said in a couple years, I could totally see us driving a campaign to get him in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely.
I'd love
I don't
that
know.
promo.
I don't know if it could actually happen. I don't know. I'm telling you right now, a writer is getting fired for that promo, whatever happens for it. But okay, so injuries are kind of piling up lately. There is a rumor that Cody is injured, but nobody is like it doesn't if it is an injury, it doesn't appear to be very severe. But our old friend Dave Meltzer got caught with his pants around his ankles again when he insisted that Dominic Mysterio was going out for some big, huge surgery. And then Dominic responds, no surgery for this guy.
Yeah.
So, we've also seen, I mean, what's going on? Isn't Hobbs injured now and Julia Hart over in AEW?
Yeah,
we're seeing
Hobbs is over for a while.
We're seeing a lot of injuries. What's that, Kev?
What happened to Hobbs?
What did happen to Hobbs?
He got hurt in that match with
accident against Moxley.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think is contributing to, because it kind of feels like there's more, like injuries are coming around more often now, but these guys are working lighter schedules. Is it just the style that they're wrestling? Phil, I feel like you would have some good insight on this.
Yeah, I would just agree with that. The style, it's just the style, and in AEW as well. So I think, okay, if we're going to compare the two in WWE, you probably work more. And well, not probably, you do. And so in AEW, I'd say maybe because people aren't working enough, so it's easier to roll an ankle if you're not like in the ring all the time. I'd assume it's like that with any sport, really. You got to stay, fresh. But I mean, I don't know, but we are seeing injuries in WWE as well, which then you could attribute to their schedule. So I don't know. I'll just put it the common denominator between both. It's just the modern style of wrestling. There's a lot more risks and a lot of littler people doing bigger stunts and moves, if you will.
Yeah,
I think a lot of the WWE stuff also are guys who pushed off getting injuries taken care of until after WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure we get that payday.
That could be
make sure
true.
they're available, and then like
point.
Steph did, or I would imagine Rhea did, because she did not look like she got injured in that attack by Liv. So I wonder how many of them had nagging problems that they just kind of put off until now.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
Rhea didn't look right in that match either. It's not like she looked hurt, but I was expecting an all-time classic between Rhea and Becky, and Rhea did not look right in that match. And so I think there is something to that maybe she was just holding off an injury.
I was expecting it to kind of become like I was expecting it to be in the ballpark of her and Charlotte, because Becky and Charlotte on the Austin Rock, or of women's wrestling, I think, at that point. And they've had such bangers together. But so it could possibly be that. I know Becky was also wrestling sick. I believe she had strep throat or something like that. We talked about Becky winning the title last week. But Kevin, now imagine, if you will, these guys were still working like the 50 weeks a year on the road, 300 days on the road. Like none of them there'd be no one left.
Well, that's it. And I think, part of TKO demanding that they chop down the house show schedule, even for what it had been chopped down to, injuries are going to happen. You're every time you bump, it's a mini car accident. These guys grind. It's, when you talk about like conditioning, wrestlers probably the only other sports I would say they'll probably come remotely close to the physical training for wrestling has to be MMA and boxing. And even with MMA and boxing, you get breaks. You get breaks in between the rounds. You only train for a very specific amount of time, whereas wrestling, you're going all year round. You're traveling. You're getting in a small car. You're getting in a small plane. You got to fight whether you have the flu. You have to maintain your body, right? Like if I come out on Raw and I've got an 8-pack, and I get the flu and my flight's late, I still have to figure out how to train. I still got to figure out how to eat. I still got to figure everything else out because when I get to the next Monday, I have to deliver what I sold you the week before, or I shit all over it. So it's tough. And again, the old school mentality, especially WrestleMania season, right? WrestleMania season is the most important part of their year. Everybody's relying on you. So it turns into the old adage of, are you hurt or are you injured? If you are not injured, you're going to find a way to grind it out. Or depending on if can I work around it? You're going to find a way to grind it out. And now is kind of the time where, we're doing a draft. We're trying to figure everything out. The draft didn't give us a lot. I also don't really understand what people are looking for from the draft.
Yeah.
Because it's not like how it used to be when we first started, where they were trying to figure it out. Really, the draft is a shakeup, and it's a draft for the NXT kids, because what's the NFL draft? It's an infusion of new blood, into the league. So it's you're only really drafting the NXT kids. Everything else is a realignment. And Triple H himself said the focus of the draft was to recalibrate and balance the shows so that no one show had too much of something or was lacking something. So listen, if you're going to be hurt, now's a kind of a good time to do it, because we're on a long way from SummerSlam. And if you can be back in time, hey, you're what is it? The biggest party of the year. You're there on time. But other than that, guys, listen, you look at the NFL, guys are getting hurt more in the NFL, more so than you've really ever seen. And it doesn't matter how many dumb rule changes they make to kind of fuck the game up. I think some of it is you do need an off season. Bodies do need time to recover. Training. It's a little boring comment. I'll keep it fast. Training modalities are very different. People have that 7 days a week mentality. 365 7 days a week. Yeah, that's great and all when you're 22.
Yeah, you need rest.
But you need rest. Yeah. Also you factor in the traveling, the bumping, all that shit, and it's just going to happen. It may be a freak thing. I know a guy who had a match a couple weeks ago. He went for something super simple. He took an atomic drop, did his little hop. He went to go one way, his knee went the other way, and he tore his ACL. It's just that simple. It's just something that kind of comes with the game. But that said, the athletes of today, they wrestle a different kind of match, but they have better access to care. They have better physical therapy, and so they recover faster. It's just a matter of you're gonna have to see guys learning how to work smarter, not necessarily harder.
But then you've got guys like Danielson, who probably at this point needs to kind of take that Stone Cold Steve Austin approach, where Austin was, an amazing technical worker, but then when he, after he broke his neck, he had to start adapting his style. He had to start doing other things. Danielson's body is falling apart, and he refuses to alter up his style. And I think you're seeing a lot of guys that grew up with that like Japanese strong style, tape trading kind of thing, the way Danielson did. And these are the guys that are just pushing themselves until they completely break.
Yeah, he's
I'll say one thing. I'll shut up. What's fascinating about Danielson, right, is because it kind of fell under the radar. He comes out and cuts this wacky fucking promo about how he hopes he dies in the ring. So that's essentially what I got out of it. And I was like, this is a guy, super concussions, eye injuries, back injuries, was told he couldn't do this. And to me, as a guy who has looked at how he's looked at, right? Like he is regarded as one of the best in the world. Doesn't matter what company he was in. This guy is the top of the top. He's the creme de la creme. To me, that is very irresponsible messaging to send out to these younger kids, especially in a company like AEW, where I'm fairly certain we will see someone die on live television.
Look, and say what you will about that and laugh about it and whatever you want. But here's the thing. From 2010 until 2020, there weren't people dying in wrestling. There weren't a ton of people dying in wrestling from overdoses. You didn't hear a lot about drug addiction. You didn't hear a lot about people getting paralyzed. You didn't hear any of that stuff because after the Attitude Era and ECW settled down and kind of everything, went down a little bit in terms of what was expected from these guys, they were able to work a more reasonable, safer style that got accepted by the mainstream. Now AEW has come, and one of my biggest gripes with them, even from the beginning, when I was for the first few years, I was a big AEW fan, but I just kept saying they shouldn't be taking these bumps. They don't have to anymore. You don't have to do this to sell to a mainstream audience, because what you're doing is you're recreating the era of backyard wrestling. You're recreating the era of bigger bumps. The stuff Mick Foley worked super hard to make not the mainstream anymore. He, after he did it, he took full responsibility for making that the mainstream and did everything he could to mainstream a sock in its place. And you can talk about that being corny or whatever, but it was safer and these guys had longer careers. Look at AJ Styles right now. Okay, he's the same age as oh my gosh, he's tie-dye, not Jesse Ventura, long beard, made a comeback with Don Morocco. What was his name?
Billy Graham.
Billy Graham. He's the same age that Billy Graham was when he tried to make his return in the 80s. Think about how Billy Graham looked back then, and think about how AJ Styles looks right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the difference that we made since the Attitude Era, and it's all going backwards.
Yeah. Now, but what's crazy though is that the WWE seems to have more of the injuries lately. I mean, I don't know if I'm just not seeing all the AEW.
Well, I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Alfred.
No, it's just we'll need to go back and kind of calculate how these injuries compare to like the average number of injuries that are happening in a month. Because I think what's happening is there's a lot of high-profile injuries, right? Like Kenny Omega's out, MJF is out, Drew McIntyre is out, CM Punk. These are all big names. Cody Rhodes may or may not be hurt, which I don't think he is, but
I don't think he is.
There's a lot of big names that are hurt that make it seem like, oh my God, what's going on? Because there was a stretch. I watch NXT every week, and there was a stretch in NXT where there was a very, very high spike in injuries, and it was all strength and conditioning. It was like they blamed the strength and conditioning guy. I think they may or may not have fired him because everybody was tearing the ACLs, so there was something in their training. So that, I think, was indicative of something going wrong. But I think what's happening is there's a lot of high-profile names getting hurt, so maybe we just think that it's more than it usually is.
And I also wonder if WWE's bar for taking guys off TV and giving them time to rest up and fix injuries is much lower than AEW's is.
I think for sure. I think for sure you're seeing that. You're seeing them stop matches. You're seeing them. WWE is a publicly traded company. They're being a lot safer now. And I think, I think Benoit was kind of the catalyst for that when, we realized the dangers of CTE and what it can drive in a person. I think it was then time to reevaluate the way we do things.
Yeah.
And the thing in AEW too is that like you see someone like Chris Statlander, she might be on TV every week, but she hasn't wrestled in 2 months. Well, she's probably hurt, like dealing with something again or whatever, and then that just doesn't really get blown up or announced as well. So I don't know. That could be a factor or a variable rather.
Big thank you, Robbie Rodriguez, for the super chat. And then we got one from John JID 999. Thank you very much. Says Danielson throwing caution to the wind with his history scares me. The end of the Osprey match, the sieges wasn't good selling. It was scary. I mean, yeah, and with Danielson, with them working that injury, I thought that was a little weird. It was maybe a little tone deaf. But you know what? People believed it. People like it. It almost kind of felt. I know these are two wildly different things here, but go with me here on this analogy. Selling Danielson with like yet another injury with like the seizure, it felt like WCW when they did the Scott Hall is an alcoholic stuff.
Oh god.
Oh yeah.
Well, I could see the similarities there. I mean,
yeah, it's a real life
alcoholism
thing.
and concussions are two very serious, ailments.
Right. Right. And something that the audience is aware of, that we know about, is a real thing. Their fans are actually worried about, and we're kind of using it for a storyline at that point.
But the difference is no one in AEW in the company is trying to get Danielson to stop. There's no storyline going, Danielson, you need to cut it back. You need to slow down.
Right.
You need to stop. You're addicted to this. There's no one doing that. At least with Scott Hall's thing, everyone was telling him in the storyline that he shouldn't be doing it. That
was the whole point with Kevin Nash, like, coming out there and like trying to pick him up. And now, we were talking, Kevin mentioned the draft really quickly, and the draft, I think, is, I mean, I don't know what I was expecting. Our friend Mish from Wrestling Soup was in here. I saw him commenting on the chat here, and he said, I think there was a lot of hope that the draft would capture the excitement that it did back in the early 2000s. And yes, I think that was it. People don't look like they kind of ran this the way you'd run like a regular sports draft, like whereas people were used to like that one draft where we opened Raw with John Cena coming out being drafted to Raw. Like that was the big, like, you came out and the first thing we did, which makes sense from a logical standpoint, is and this is the thing. It's like, I'm going to be like the anti-Dave Meltzer here, probably not for the first time in my life, where I'm going to say this made logic sense, but it didn't make booking sense.
Yeah.
In terms of like taking Jey Uso first. Yeah. Like he's your first draft pick. You keep him on Monday Night Raw because he's challenging for the world title in a week. And he could be world champion. And that's why you want to keep him where you got to keep him. I don't know if like not having the champions in it might have hurt it because you didn't have a lot of big guys in there. But with the champions, it always kind of shattered the illusion a little bit because, if Cody got drafted to Raw, then Priest is getting drafted to SmackDown. So, you're not going to have two world champions on one show. Alfred, what were your thoughts on the draft and how do you think it came through? And where do you think this lies in like the grand scale of WWE drafts over the years?
I hated it. I thought it's at the bottom. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of it because I thought there was just too many holes in logics. There was not enough movement around, but there were some points brought up that made me think that they could change the draft for the better, because some of the best moments of the draft was the NXT talent getting drafted. That's when it felt real to me, because it was. They did not smarten them up that they were being drafted. So it's almost like they're winning the lottery and they're getting on the prices right. You're seeing all these like legitimate reactions from the talent. And maybe that's what the draft needs to be. If you want to make wrestling and the draft congruent to a real sport, then you have people switch brands by trading, because they're professionals now. They're on Raw and SmackDown. They're on different teams. So you trade for them and you make the trades part of a storyline. And then the draft comes once a year. Maybe you even air that on NXT for a big rating. And the NXT draft, you draft them to Raw and SmackDown. And you see who's leaving NXT. And I think that'd be a great way to use the draft.
Yeah, I think contracts should be pushed harder. I think the idea, like I was saying, that they could use this as a reset where, like, okay, you have X amount of 2-year contracts, X amount of 1-year contracts. The 1-year contracts get put back in the draft pool next year. The 2-year contracts you don't have to worry about. And then that way next year they can be like, okay, well, Randy Orton's not going to move, so he's not going to be in the draft. You can always book around that kind of thing and only put the people in that you want to move. There needs to be something done, because I understand they want to make it more realistic, and this was more realistic. You're more likely to want to keep somebody that you know is successful rather than gamble on somebody that you don't know if it's going to fit in with your quote unquote team. So it makes sense to keep a lot of the people the same and do that kind of from a logic standpoint. But yes, from a booking standpoint, it's not fun, right? Like, I think that's the main thing, is it just wasn't fun. And I don't know how you fix that. And I don't know if you do. honestly, I don't know if you make the draft a big deal going forward. I think your idea about just keeping it on NXT and then making it like trade week or something otherwise.
Yeah,
would be
that's a
perfect.
way better idea.
And you could use trades. It doesn't have to be trade week. It just be like a real sport where throughout the year you can trade. And you want to talk about having fun. Like there are real life things in sports that happen based around contracts that come off like pro wrestling. Like everybody remembers Terrell Owens was in a contract dispute. He ended up doing sit-ups outside of his apartment or whatever. Like you could do angles like that where Randy Orton is holding out of his contract and it becomes a big story.
Yeah, and trade deadlines as well. They could implement that. I'm just thinking of it now. It's actually a really great point. Yeah, I tweeted out something about this at Pro Wrestle Times on X. Hey. But this is what I tweeted out or posted about how to make the WWE draft better. I said, get rid of draft pools entirely. Teams are drafted as individuals. No more like drafting a whole faction over to a show. Each brand chooses 10 men and 5 women both nights. Each brand drafts 2 NXT call-ups both night as rookies. And both nights there are 2 wild card draftees chosen at random. So I think one of the reasons we all remember the draft so fondly from years before is because of that wild card factor. Like there were nights where I think someone got drafted and then Triple H got like drafted back over the same night, you know, or John Cena shows up and that was like a huge deal.
Tripp got drafted to SmackDown and he came out for the main event in the SmackDown shirt. And then the next morning they said that like Bischoff traded like 12 guys to get Triple H back.
You know, let's not forget though that the drafts used to be a lot of fun, but the weeks after were not a lot of fun because you had guys who didn't have any direction. You had to, and Vince never had a plan for these guys when he'd move in between brands. So half the time they wouldn't be on TV for 3 weeks, or they'd be shoved in the storylines they didn't belong in. You'd have
Reverend Devon.
Yeah, you'd have tag teams break up with absolutely no idea what to do with these guys, just to shock people, just to entertain. Right. So, you know, I'd be okay with not drafting factions together, but you have to draft teams. I hate the idea of breaking up teams in the draft because it's never worked. There's never been one time.
The thing with the factions was, you know, you draft, and I think Phil, I don't know if it was you that mentioned this. Somebody mentioned this. I saw that like you drafted the LWO, but Carlito came along with them. Right. And Carlito had just turned on them. But then you drafted Imperium despite, you know,
that made sense. It actually, if you go by their logic, it does make sense because Imperium broke up on Monday. They had to have their draft pools in by Friday. So the draft pools were in Friday, so they had all of LWO together as one group, but Imperium had already broke up on Monday. So
Carlito is not officially out of the LWO.
Right.
Okay. And we could do the backward semantics, and I get it from that standpoint, but just looking at this on its face, it really is a big hole in logic in that if we're just simplifying this, 2 groups broke up and we're giving them 2 different rules. It's like, okay, maybe some paperwork could have stopped you from this, but a casual fan isn't watching wrestling thinking, let's look at the paperwork. Like
they should have sold it on the show too.
Yes.
They didn't sell it at all on the show. They should.
Maybe there could be like a tag team draft though. Maybe like, you can enter as a tag team into the draft if you'd like. But you know, there's more stock in Orton not doing that, so he's obviously not gonna, and that sort of makes sense. And then maybe I don't know. We're just spitballing ideas, fantasy mark booking, if you will. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely was underwhelmed, though. I'm not gonna lie, but I didn't expect it to be anything crazy. I figured it would be more or less more of the same. You know,
Apollo, you've been
apology. You know, for tag teams, what would be interesting is you could do something where the default is you're drafting the tag team, but you also give the individual performers the ability to submit themselves for draft eligibility.
Yes.
Now you can have a tag partner not tell his partner that he threw himself into the draft, and you can put intention there. And if he doesn't get drafted, now you have to suffer the consequences of that. I think with the draft, right? Listen, I can tell you what people wanted. It's a new era, the new era, new era, 8 hours of new era. This is what people wanted. They wanted the night after New Blood Rising. All titles will be stripped.
Oh, God.
No. At the very beginning.
You think you want it until you get it.
People wanted all rosters completely, totally blown up and everybody and their mother able to be sent wherever the chips may fall. And it's not realistic. Also, too, what might help the draft is for at least for the Raw and SmackDown superstars, just go back to a legit lottery.
Yeah.
A name of the ball. Number 13 is Jey Uso.
Yeah, right.
So that there's just there's randomness behind it.
I think that's better because you can only get so far before you really start burying people through the draft. And they even did it last night with Drew McIntyre saying, "Why am I going in the third round?" And then everybody who went after him, it's like you're burying them too. So it's random. Nobody's getting buried by getting drafted late.
And that's why you can't have protected lists either, because if you have protected lists, then of course either A, they're going to protect everybody above a certain level, and that makes everyone up below that look bad, or B, you're going to protect people throughout the card, and then you're going to say, well, why did they protect Jey Uso and not Randy Orton? It doesn't make any, I think one thing also that people aren't thinking of is that there are a lot of people who watch SmackDown who don't watch Raw.
Yeah.
And there aren't a lot of people that watch Raw that don't watch SmackDown. So if you notice, SmackDown's roster stayed kind of consistent. And I think the reason is because they don't want, because the viewers of SmackDown might be upset by losing a Randy Orton or losing an LA Knight, and they might stop watching if their favorite wrestler isn't there. Whereas Raw, you can take the favorite wrestler, put it on SmackDown, and they can watch either show. So it's not a big deal.
That's a good point. Oh God, I forgot what I was going to say.
The best part for me was the rookies getting called up. I felt like it felt real. They obviously didn't know. It was emotional. That felt really cool. Like we're seeing the rookie draft. So I want to see more of that. I really like that idea of make it like a rookie draft and then you have like a trade week or something. Like I really actually like that concept. That would work really well. Hopefully they change it up or just more of the same and just don't make a big deal out of it,
It was like them not being smartened up, and the genuine reaction was kind of like the inverse version of that one year where they drafted JR to SmackDown but didn't tell him because they knew they knew it would upset him, and like Kevin Dunn was like, make sure you get the camera on him.
Remember when they gutted ECW and Taz was having a meltdown? And then they finally drafted Joey Styles out of ECW and put him on Raw. And Taz was like, what do we even have a show for?
That was not Wordle Taz. That was invested Taz.
What people have also forgotten? That the draft happened throughout the entire week. You just had to go to WWE.com to see what the other moves were. And the rosters are so big, you can't get to everybody in the 5 hours that you do it.
They forgot about Odyssey Jones. They forgot about him because he was the only one. He was the only one who got his own tweet. Everyone else was tweeted as groups of 4, and then they're like, "Oh, and Odyssey Jones," and we also spelled his name wrong.
Didn't he get drafted to Raw last year and then never had a match?
Yeah. Poor Odyssey Jones. What does he have on Triple H? He has to have something.
Well, maybe he is odd with 2 Ds now, and he's going to be part of the Wyatt 6.
Okay.
That's where I'm going with this.
He has a lot of charisma. I'm shocked they pulled him off of NXT so fast, but it's a guy with a lot of charisma who just kind of didn't get.
Did he get drafted while he was injured? If I remember correctly,
and they never used. I mean, he never appeared on TV in the time since he's been drafted.
I wonder how he's doing. Maybe he's not better yet. I mean, we don't. Maybe it's a Big E situation.
Yeah, exactly. There's a big possibility of that.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay, let's see what else we got on the docket for this week. Something good we can close on here. Hey, so Goldberg hates AEW apparently. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
How about that? Hold on, I'm gonna see if I gotta find this Goldberg quote because it was insane. Basically, Goldberg saying that AEW is like goofy, and Tony actually responded to it today. Which for once, I don't actually fault Tony for responding to something. This is the kind of thing you're supposed to respond to.
Yeah. And it's outside of it's not putting shine on like specifically WWE at this time. And I would respond to this too because Goldberg, is not affiliated anywhere. So it makes the most sense. But Harvey Weinstein, Pepsi.
Yeah, right. Where is okay, so Goldberg explains why he has no interest in joining AEW. Okay. So Goldberg said, I've talked to him, Tony Khan, and a number of times throughout the past. This is where you're going to get the most blunt answer you're going to get from me. The product is too cheesy. It doesn't deserve to have its own whatever. Now you're really going to get me going. But there was a comparable, viable option as a competitor that would allow me to still look myself in the mirror after I was a member of their roster. Yeah, then it would be consideration, but not a chance. That is some strong words from Goldberg. Holy crap. Like, I wouldn't be able to look myself in the mirror anymore.
Yeah, this man worked with Vince Russo, remember?
Right. Well, but you know what? That's probably why he's so hesitant. Because, you know, he remembers what it was like in that Russo era. And, you know, I think Goldberg is very particular about creative, kind of in the same way that Austin is.
Yeah. And let's be fair to AEW real quick. I think Goldberg knows he couldn't hang with any of those guys, and they would not book a match that would make him look good. They think they'd book a match that would make him look good, but they look how they made Wardlow look. Look how they made Brian Cage look.
This is the problem with AEW is you're naming all these guys like a Wardlow or Brian Cage who to an average eye could be a big star, but there's a certain mentality that, oh, you can't hang with AEW. Well, what does that mean with television ratings? And with my girlfriend's watching AEW, she's not thinking about who can hang with whom. You want to know about the stories and like the big freak show element. There has to be that element. And I think we need to consider like who can work to Goldberg style.
At the end of the day, the name of the game is if I don't look good, you don't look good. If you're a wrestler, your job is to make your dance partner look better than you, because if I'm putting them over, I look great.
Yeah.
The Ric Flair tricked the world into thinking that Lex Luger was the greatest wrestler on the planet and that he could take over the mantle for Hulk Hogan. And I am a Lex Luger mark. But that Lex Luger versus the Lex Luger who closed out Nitro were very different animals. He wasn't ready yet. He wasn't there yet. He came back to the WCW and became a star, but he would have never, ever attained those levels.
Yeah.
The other part of it, too, is if I'm Goldberg, again, I know right out the box, AEW is participation trophy wrestling. Guys who look like Wardlow, guys who look like Big Bill, guys who look like Brian Cage are relentlessly jobbed out to people who, frankly, they take shits bigger than the people they have to lose to. So why would I go there? It's a waste of my fucking time.
Look at
I'm an old man. I'm an old man. I don't have a lot of bumps left in my card. It does the money I'm sure is magnificent, but Goldberg has all of them. Goldberg has the FU money. So that's not going to be the motivator for him. His motivator is I need to look good so that my son sees me look good.
Yeah.
And right now Goldberg closed out a hell of a run. Ignore the Saudi match, right? Who would have ever foreseen himself giving himself a concussion milliseconds into the match? But his matches with Lashley were fairly decent. It was a super cool storyline, and he got his kid included into it. If Goldberg's going to do this because he wants to close out his career on his terms, that means big money matches with big stars. Not some asshole with his hands in his pocket.
Yeah. Goldberg understands that he is an attraction at this point, right?
Yeah.
And look at how AEW uses attractions. You got Satnam Singh, who they've done absolutely nothing with. And you got Sting, who they made drive himself through tables every night if he wanted to, do anything. In WWE, the big attraction right now is Omos. And I think they're doing a great job building Omos up as an attraction. Say what you will about the way but the first show I took my son to, when we walked in the door of the arena, the first thing he saw was Omos. Omos was walking through the crowd by himself. Nobody was with him, no security, and they just sent him out there so that people could look up at him. That is how you build an attraction and put him out on the road. He's out in house shows fighting people because when he walks down to the ring, he looks like a big deal. They bring him out for battle royals and people are like, oh my gosh, he's going to win this battle royal, isn't he? Every time they're turning him into like an Andre. Yeah. And so Goldberg looks at something like that and says, well, they know how to treat an attraction still. Look how they treated Brock Lesnar. They still know how to build an attraction and build that mystique. AEW has no idea about that because they want everyone everyone to be what Sting. I mean, they want everyone to be a normal wrestler. They want an AEW wrestler, and Sting had to become an AEW wrestler to be accepted.
Hey, the best normal wrestler.
Yeah.
But you know, with Tony's response, you could tell when Tony likes someone, like is a fan of somebody, the way he responds to them. Because like, look at the way he responds to Bischoff, calling him every name in the book. But Cornette, who says infinitely worse things about him, Tony will not say a bad word about Jim Cornette. But now, you know, we just got WWE's Harvey Weinstein, and then look at what he said about Goldberg. He said, Bill wanted to work here. I met with Bill several times. Bill was looking to work here. It's funny because I had a bunch of really nice meetings with Bill and would have honestly been interested in doing something. Since he brought it up, I have a lot of respect for Bill, but I was surprised by that because certainly that wasn't what he said to me when he was talking to me about maybe working here at some point, which I've always been open to. And I really like Bill. And, you know, it's just more like the Tony Khan, like, you know, round and round and round he goes. But he definitely did not bury Goldberg there the way he might have buried somebody else who said something about AEW like that. So
and Tony thinks everybody who gives him a hug is his friend, and
right,
it's kind of funny.
But Goldberg and AEW would have been like, do you remember like in like the late 90s after the Ultimate Warrior left WCW, he posted this blog on his website where basically he was asking Paul Heyman for a job to come to ECW. I've never met Paul Heyman, but I'd be willing to come there and do this. And then Heyman had the line where he was like, yeah, that's cool. If he's interested in jobbing at Taz, we can have a conversation. And then Warrior lost his shit. Goldberg and AEW would have been the Ultimate Warrior in ECW.
Okay.
I'd be here for it. I mean, anybody who could stick out like a sore thumb, that's what AEW needs right now. They signed Will Ospreay and they treat it like it's a big deal. They've got like 8 Will Ospreays. They've got like, you know, Brian Danielson. And these are guys that I'm fans of, but like Brian Danielson checks the same boxes that Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega, you know, even Orange Cassidy. Like a lot of these guys can do what they can do. But if you get a Goldberg there, he would stick out. And he's something that would really create some, you know, a difference in AEW.
That's why I think so many AEW fans wanted Drew McIntyre to move so much. Could you imagine how much he would stand out in AEW?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if they know how to use him. I don't know, but although I think Drew McIntyre might be a guy who wouldn't allow them to use him incorrectly.
Probably not.
That's why I said I was just gonna say if it's me, I'm bringing Jinder Mahal in. He's squashing Hook in like under a minute.
There you go. There you go.
Well, yeah, especially because you know, Hook is apparently WWE bound from what everyone's saying. And you know, you've got crap, I was going somewhere with this and now I just completely lost it. But could you imagine like in a world where Ultimate Warrior did go to ECW, what the ECW arena fans would have done with him?
Well, it's like when Sid went there, kind of.
Kevin, what do you got?
They would have eaten that shit up.
They would have. Because they were all old school WWF marks. Every person in that arena was an old school WWF mark.
It would have, he would have, we need to be honest, right? It would have been just like Sid. There would have been 2 or 3 appearances. The appearance would have been over before. It would have been the honky tonk man. You know, Shane Douglas, all right, you motherfuckers. Dum, 3 clotheslines, you know, big splash, and he's out the door.
They would have had him come out to Pantera. Instead, you know, or something like that, and he would have torn the place up, and people would have gone into. It would have been like Scott Hall. Remember when Scott Hall went to ECW?
Yep.
Wow, I forgot about Scott Hall and ECW. Man,
came out to the Fugees. Yep, came out to the Fugees.
Shaggy Filth 73 says favorite part of draft week was everything but the draft. There was a lot of good on both shows this week, like as far as like the actual like show itself. Our buddy Awful Wrestling, fantastic show tonight. Would Goldberg go with a special appearance match in AEW? I just who's it with? Who's it with, and what's the finish?
Because the only I could see him making an appearance in AEW, but not for a match. It'd be something like he comes in and All In and just destroys everybody in the ring and saves Tony Khan from a beat down, and then they go off the air with them raising his hand, and that's the end of it. I could see something like that.
Or even he teaches Wardlow how to find the old Wardlow.
There you go. I could see a meat match with Wardlow. That's what I would like.
Yeah, I'd like that. But again, Tony doesn't know how to book big guys. He's kind of like the opposite of Vince in a lot of regards. Yeah. You know, it's hold on,
mindset.
I got another. Alt Jake says TK books big guys like Vince books small guys. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And then Alejandro Melendez, thank you very much. Said Sting's last AEW match will not age well. Yeah, you know what? I'm willing to go with that as well. But hey guys, before we end here, real quick, there was an analogy that I thought of the other day. Who here has been watching X-Men 97? Anyone?
Right here.
Yeah, Phil, Apollo, Alfred. Okay, so they bring Mojo back, right? Remember Mojo? And when you spoiler alert, guys, when they find Mojo, he's skinny. And I was like, is this like a Russell T. Davies? I didn't want to associate fat people and mobile assistance devices with evil. And I thought like they were going that direction. And I was like, oh no. Then when Mojo starts using the X-Men to get TV ratings, he gets really big and fat. That's why Tony Khan is so skinny.
Shit.
And that's the joke we're ending on this week. Alfred, thank you so much for joining us this week. This was so much fun.
This is fun. This is a great time, man.
Yeah, man. You are welcome back anytime, my friend. Definitely. And please tell them where they can find you.
On Twitter at This Is Nasty, very lively Twitter. You can read my articles on Forbes. And then this week, Cody Rhodes documentary dropping at Pro Wrestling Bits, youtube.com/Pro Wrestling Bits. We're on our way to 20,000. Can't believe it, but thank you for everything. And you guys are going to be there soon enough.
Thanks, man. And like I said, if you ever want to collab or come on the show, you just let me know when, and there will be a spot made for you. Our good friend Phil Marks from Pro Wrestle Times. Thank you for joining us again this week, my friend. Tell the good people out there. I mean, I know you told them like 5 or 6 times already, but tell them again where they can find you.
Yeah, man. At Pro Wrestle Times, at Pro Wrestle Clips, both channels on YouTube. I upload to at least once a day, multiple times a day, usually on the Clip channel. And I do Pro Wrestle Times live show every Wednesday and every Saturday night. And you guys all know you're all welcome anytime over my way.
Thank you. I always love going on your shows, man. They're always
we had a blast, dude. We had a blast on Saturday. It was amazing.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, be you and Awful. And Awful will be back next week. He's just sending the super chat there. He was out working tonight, but walking the streets the way Awful does. He turning tricks.
I'll be stripping in the evenings.
Yeah, for sure. When he's not watching Grace Randolph, that's what he's doing. A little inside of baseball. That's a thing we rip on Awful for in our private chat. Okay, but guys, thank you so much. Remember the patreon.com/Tooney10 Wrestling. Headlock headlines coming at the end of the week. Song parody coming this week. Song parody will hit on Patreon first. I cannot wait to watch your documentary on Cody Rhodes, Alfred. I'm going to clear. I'm going to clear a whole chunk of time. Yeah, and we'll definitely talk about it next week on the show. Joining us next week will be our old friend Mish from Wrestling Soup. He'll be back with us today. Yeah. For Disciplinary Committee, Apollo, my friend, thank you so much. And of course, big thanks to our producer, AEW Neckbeards, who, we could not do the show without moderating the chat and, helping us line everything up. So, ladies and gentlemen, for Phil Marks, for Alfred Konuwa, for AEW Disciplinary Committee, for War Dog Apollo, for AEW Neckbeards, I'm a Movie Monster. Now get out of here!